a little bit of troubleshooting. That's all. We're just seeing how it goes. Some people are going to show up. It's going to be super dope. I can't wait. It's going to be great, you know?
All right. Are you seeing it on the tubes of views? Let's see it yet.
I sure am.
Yeah, it says that we're live. So
Oh, we live, baby. We out here. I wish I knew how I was smart enough to check. Oh, welcome to our live show. I'm out here, buddy. You let me know. Live on Twitter. We're live everywhere it is that we need to go. That's
dude,
all.
Twitter, I just can't seem to understand. Like I don't. I think somebody said that Twitter is like a place for angry political people to go yell at each other. You know, that's what I've heard about Twitter.
You know, it
It
really
doesn't
is.
seem.
I've noticed too. So, I've lived on Instagram for a long time. I've lived on, I had Facebook pages back in the day, and I interact on a bunch of different accounts and with a bunch of different stuff. Whatever. Twitter is wild, dude. It's its own like complete animal. I've never really engaged on Twitter a whole bunch of times. It is a place for it's a completely different way to communicate. You have to make posts in different ways. I'll have posts that do well on one site and not well on the other. And if you don't have a following, if you don't have people that actually follow you, it's really hard to get in front of people. You really do have to grind. I cannot understand. People are tweeting hundreds of times a day. How? Like some of the stuff and some of the stuff they're tweeting too is hilarious. You can kind of see the clickbait articles where it's like, oh, are you a MAGA conservative with under 10K? Comment on my post and we'll get you guys all linked up. I see like 65 of those a day where it's just like, okay, this is obviously you trying to draw attention to your page. This is obviously you trying to get eyes on your stuff. You're doing it under the guise of a poll or whatever else. But for touch and reach, I mean, you look at Elon tweets and 10 million, 30 million people see his tweets. Are you joking?
And
Individual tweets?
there's stuff that he tweets. It's like I'm sitting on the toilet taking a shit, and it's like 10 million people are like, "Oh my god, Elon's taking a shit." I'm like,
Got it.
really?
So, old Jared Phillips hopped up in the chat. Thanks very much, Jared. Turns out there's no audio for you, Jay.
Oh shit! I'm just talking to myself here.
You are. It's great. I don't know. I hear you just fine. I don't know if it's not putting your audio out. Jared in the chat, just do me a favor. If you guys can hear Jay, just throw in a little thumbs up. And we're able to see you in the chat here as you guys are chatting up. So put your questions in here and we'll got it. We'll get it to it. And maybe I just ramble along. Maybe Jay comes out and comes back in. We're all learning. It's a good time. It's a good time here at the War Room. So here's how the episode is going to work for the day, if you want to call it an episode. Obviously, we're live now across a couple different platforms. We're across my Twitter, X, if you will. So go follow Aaron and then Loves America. Jay's video is kind of asked. Thanks, Mason. I appreciate that. I'll make sure to yell at Jay afterwards. Um, we're going to sit here and talk. The guys are going to flow in and flow out. Total transparency moment. We had everything scheduled. We had slipped from yesterday to today. And then, of course, I had an appointment pop up that I didn't foresee. So then I was making everybody's life extremely hard. So Jay and I were like, we're just going to hop on early. We're going to talk about some stuff and we're going to go from there. So that's essentially what we're doing. You'll see Ben hop in here. So is Jake. They'll hop in when they can. But we wanted to sit here and talk about just stuff in general. Jay, let's hear your audio.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you. It's the chat that matters.
Chat, can you guys hear me?
I love it. Chat, are we live? Does it work? I'm excited about it. We'll wait for that lag to kick in and see if we actually get video out of Jay. Whatever happened? Weren't you supposed to get a microphone? Didn't you get that condenser? Weren't you getting stuff? Now I can't hear you either. This is fantastic. How does my audio look or sound and look? I think I look great. I think I sound great as well.
All right, so you still can't hear me?
There, they're just saying you're quiet.
Hmm. Things that make you say, hmm.
Indeed.
Let's do this.
Yep. So in the chat, let's start it off with whatever questions you got. That'll be fine. And we'll go from there. Oh, thanks, Mason. I appreciate that. Stunning as always. Flattery is the way to my heart. I will put that out there. It actually is the way. So we'll start off on my normal rant here, right? So thanks everybody. Like, follow the page, subscribe, kick it out there if you like what we're doing. Man, we'd really love the support. So like, comment, share, subscribe, turn the notifications on. We got a whole lot of stuff, more stuff for you. We've got a different look this week. We're moving over to Riverside, so we're hoping that gets us a little bit easier on the back end in production. Shout out to Riverside. Riverside's great as opposed to Zoom. I just typically like it a little bit more. Audio's muffled on Jay. I got one for Ben, but I'm going to wait till he hops on. All good. What's up, JB? Welcome. Balaclava, question mark. Hello. I'd like the question mark as well. How are things going? We got a lot of stuff coming for you. We're going to start bringing on guests. We're going to start having more of a panel look at it. We're going to cover more of those things that you really like. We're even going to start doing stuff like reacts and, how we feel about stuff that's going on in the culture, because that's important. That's a culture, the culture war is a culture war, whether you know that you're at war or not. Hey, what happened to the 4 p.m. Central Time yesterday? We had to switch till today. We covered it already, but it was my fault. Yeah, that's totally my fault. What happened at 4:30 p.m. yesterday? You know what happened? Aaron happened. I'm really, really sorry. I am the diva of the group. My hair wasn't looking great. I was having a bad hair day. I had to cancel it. It is what it is, homie. I'm sorry. I apologize. Nope, it was a scheduling conflict. We decided to go today. I had this pop-up thing. I'm going to be attending ADCC. Nice. Thanks, bud. So I'm going to be attending ADCC this weekend. If you're in Vegas, if you're anywhere around the biggest grappling match of the year, depending on how big the Craig Jones Invitational is, if you guys want to come say hi, man, it would be great. It would be great for you guys to come and link up. It's happening down at the T-Mobile Arena, ADCC 2024, headlined by the one and only, the king, the GOAT, the best submission grappler that we've ever seen in the history of the world, Gordon Ryan. Pretty easy one there. Balaclava. My question is, should we go to war with Iran? Okay, easy one to start off, I guess, as we wait for Jay to come back in. So, no, we shouldn't, right? When you start looking at these questions, you think, send it.
Check.
Oh my goodness. Chat, can I get a thumbs up? Can I get a thumbs up if you guys can hear Jay? I can hear him. He sounds better. He looks great. I love the check. Check, Sergeant. We'll handle this one first. Jay, the question is, should we go to war with Iran? No, I don't think that we should go to war with Iran. I don't think we should go to war with, quite frankly, anybody right now. I think the Middle East is an absolute garbage dumpster fire. I think that it is that way because of America's weakness on the world stage. Do I think Iran, has a prescient threat to homeland America? No, they don't. Do I think that they have a prescient threat to the area in which they reside? Yeah, sure, 100%. Yeah, they're a problem inside of that AO, inside of that region, right? The Middle East region is constantly in unrest thanks to the theocratic regime that is Iran, and this changed in the 70s, right? So do I think that we should go to war with them? I would ask for what? What blood and treasure are you looking to get out of Iran? Are we looking to destabilize the entire continent over there and leave that vacuum to be filled by whom? So Iran also runs many terrorist organizations, to include Hezbollah, to include Hamas, to include all of these other things, are actually supported. The Quds forces 100% prop up, fund, and set these people to task. So to destabilize the figureheads of Iran or to further, diminish their infrastructure, I don't know what that gets us. Especially, we just looked, wasn't there just a military parade at Bagram Airfield of all the equipment we left behind for the Taliban? Like, have we not learned our lesson chasing blood and treasure across the ocean for what? I would ask
I saw that shit.
Yeah.
I just saw that. I'm actually going to react to it after our live. And I'm like, what the? And those are nice looking vehicles. Those are brand new vehicles. And I'm like, holy shit.
Because they sure weren't used to kill terrorists beforehand. They were used to do crappy. Our strategy during GWAT, I say this is a GWAT guy, I deployed every single time in support of GWAT, unlike Tim Walz. Like, I'm telling you, I've been to the places that he avoided actively. So I'm telling you, as a guy that knows better now, that looks back on it, we lost Afghanistan. We retreated out of Afghanistan, out of HKIA, and that happened for the world to see. And that has led to this instability and this weakness and the boldening of Iran. The other thing that's happening here is that we don't have a president. We don't have somebody that's actually on the world stage. It's been 25 days since Kamala Harris will answer any questions. She's the nominee for the Democrats, but where's Joe Biden? We don't have anybody that's caught, like, the saber rattling and the instability in the region, all of these other things. I don't understand, what it is that we're doing geopolitically. So, short answer, Balaclava, should we go to Iran? I would ask why. Short answer is no. And then I would ask, what does it get us? What does destabilizing that region fully get us? Does it protect forces that are interspersed throughout the region? Does it protect our interests? Like, what does it actually get us? It would be my question back to you.
I would say Iran is the only somewhat stable country in that entire region. So it definitely just needs to, whether we like them or not is irrelevant, but they should just stay where they are, and because they are stable somewhat in that region. And you can't have a region of the world where there's no leaders, where there's no one to say, hey, quit messing around or else we're going to jack you up. They need somebody. And right now it's Iran. And if we go over there and fuck them up, that whole area is just going to turn into a shit show. I mean, you already have it. It's just going to get worse.
Right. Yeah. So, and that's, American foreign policy is very short-sighted, comparatively. And again, I hate China as much as the next guy. I really do. The CCP, not the people of China, right? The government of China, I absolutely abhor, because I think they're probably the worst thing for humanity that exists on the face of the earth right now for a lot of different reasons. But at least they had a plan that lasts more than 8 years. American politics, especially geopolitics or foreign policy, revolves around administrations that turn over at a most 8 years, unless you're talking about the Obama administration. Then they have 16 years because they keep running, the things from behind the scenes. What are you going to do after you depose this ruler? We saw it with Iraq. Iraq is still in disarray. It's one of the most dangerous places in the world. It has never recovered after we rebuilt their nation and then left. So you have to ask yourself the same about Iran. So when we talk about Iran, like, what are we going to do? Let's say we go in there, we clack off the nuclear facilities. Okay, great. Those are done. We find a way to eliminate Khamenei and the head of all these terrorist organizations. We find a way to replace their entire theocratic structure, right? What are we going to do? You only own that space as long as you own the space. It's a basic of tactics. You only own the room that you're in for as long as you are physically in the room. How did that work out in Afghanistan? How did that work out in Iraq? How's it going in Somalia right now? How's it going in Yemen right this second? How's it going in Africa, in several places across Africa? We'll use Airbase 201 as our example here. We were just kicked out of Niger. Our SOFA expired.
Yeah,
they were like,
that.
hey, GTFO, we lost Green Berets in Tongo. Okay, so we are in active conflict in that region, and the people that we're supposed to help have been kicking us out. What does that say about America on the world stage? Do you think it's time to go to war with Iran? I certainly don't. I think it would be a terrible misstep. I think it's the opposite of where we need to go, because it doesn't last past one question. Question one is like, okay, why? Yeah. Okay, because they lobbed some rockets at us, because they did some saber rattling. They said the same thing during the Trump administration, and then he schwacked, what was the guy's name? Not Khamenei. I'm blanking on the dude's
Soleimani?
name. Yeah, Qasem Soleimani. We schwacked him on his way to an airport in Iraq. Great, good. Keep doing that. That's destabilize. Keep killing the number one and the number two of Hamas. Great. Continue. If you want kinetic operations in that way to destabilize them, great. Tariff the crap out of them. Sanction the crap out of them. Make sure that they can't continue their nuclear program. We don't need to do anything else, because we're currently sending $115 billion to Ukraine. We can't have another proxy war. We can't afford to prop up another country in ad infinitum just because we decide that we don't like those brown people and they got to go. We got to be smarter about this. And it's funny to watch the Democratic National Convention turn into this hawkish party on war. Like it's the Democrats screaming for us to go into Iran. It's the Democrats screaming for us to go into Ukraine and continue funding Ukraine. By the way, Ukraine's in Russia right now. I thought this was about stopping Russian incursion. What are we doing? Like Ukraine is now pushing into Russia. What's the win there? Yeah. We still don't have an off ramp in Ukraine. You're asking me, should we go to war with Iran? Dude, we've got war at home. We don't need to go out for war. We've already got it.
I also don't think that the U.S. I don't think we need to go into like full out war, like boots on the ground, like we did Iraq and Afghanistan. Like I'm not saying we're smarter than everybody else, but we're so, competent to where we don't need to put boots on the ground to get somebody. Like, look at Israel, man. They're just going from, like, in Tehran, just offing people. Like, we don't need to go boots on the ground and invade another country. We can solve our problems by other means. I think after 20 plus years of doing that in Iraq and Afghanistan, we just need to rebuild for a little bit.
This is exactly it. And we've forgotten what SOF is used for. SOF is meant for these hits. Like GSO, Dev Group, these combined teams of hitters, That's what they're supposed to do. Surgical strikes of individual people or small, hard scale targets that are meant to be done in a surreptitious, either covert, clandestine, or other manner to get after America's interests. Why? And that, by the way, that's kinetic and non kinetic effects. Why it is that we don't have a team of hackers working around the clock just to turn Iran's nuclear conductors off all the time, I have no clue.
I'm sure we do.
Oh, I'm sure we do. I'm sure they're not good at it. You should see rolling blackouts across Iran until there's absolutely a revolution. You should see infrastructure. The same thing that they're trying to do to us, by the way, everybody. You know, all these outages where the 911 systems for entire states will go down. They'll be like, oh, we can't figure it out. Looks like somebody hacked us. They're trying to make America unstable. If we just did that to other countries, and I'm telling you that we do, I'm saying if we focused it and found a way for them to implode on their own, that would be much more amenable to me than going to war. Because again, people like Jay, people like me, when we say, oh, you guys, do you think we should go to war? And people talk about it so cavalierly online. I know the guys that are going to have to go. Okay. I know the guys that are going to have to go first. Yeah. Like, I'm telling you, they're my friends. And I'm telling you, when we talk about war in such a cavalier manner, maybe remember that there's a real person on the other end of that one. 26 people in the chat. What's up? This is crazy. Here's a question for Mason, switching gears. Do I think that Gordon is going to beat Felipe? Yeah, because he's the greatest grappler of all time. Felipe quit the last time that Gordon and he decided to link up. Gordon is better than he was. I think he's over his stomach issues now, and he's just on a different level. Felipe Pena is nowhere near the level of Gordon Ryan. Gordon Ryan is the best grappler you have ever seen. If you guys don't watch grappling, that's fine. If you don't watch football, that's fine. If you don't watch basketball, that's fine. But there are athletes that are on such a different level that you should go and you should try to see them live. Gordon Ryan, I am excited to watch him grapple tomorrow live. I swear if I get a picture with this guy, it'll be the first time I've fanboyed in a while. There's absolutely no way that Felipe Pena beats Gordon Ryan. It just does not happen. Felipe Pena has not done so much since their last fight. So this is number 3, the trilogy. It's not a rivalry. Felipe Pena beat Gordon Ryan way back in the day when Gordon Ryan was either a purple belt or a brown belt. It was nonsense. It took six years total from Gordon Ryan to go from no grappling to black belt. Okay, in 4 years. UFC? No, I'm talking about grappling. So like MMA, gotcha. Well, like jiu-jitsu specifically, like ADCC. So Gordon Ryan is a grappler by nature. He was 4 years old in the sport when Felipe Pena beat him the first time, and then Gordon Ryan has ran through everybody all the time forever. Comes back, makes Felipe quit. He basically tapped to gas and cardio and then blamed it on his friend Leandro dying, which was just cynical and stupid. Gordon has had his health things, and now he's back. If Gordon's healthy, if he's 80% Gordon, he absolutely destroys Pena, and he does it in walk-off fashion. It would not surprise me for Gordon Ryan antics tomorrow to where he writes down the submission that he's going to do, hits that submission, and then has the BJJ Fanatics tutorial ready to drop. There we go.
Where does that shit air? Like, does it air on like national TV or is it?
It's live, homie. It's
else?
Big now. Yeah. So it's
where at?
Yeah. So you can get. I believe Flow Grappling has the contract this year. So if you subscribe to Flow Grappling, you can watch all of ADCC. I'm not saying to stream it, but it is available on streams too. You can find it out there. It's an easy Google if you want to play the open the tab, close the tab, open the tab, close the tab game that streaming is. But you can find it on Flow Grappling.
I'll just play that game.
There you go. Yeah, I'll just wait.
My son watches all that stuff because he's competing and he's 6. And I'm like, dude, he's like, Daddy, you should go do it. I'm like, me personally, like, I call it play fighting. I was like, dude, sure. I don't know. Like, we both know those guys where they put you, like, they bring us all together and they're like, hey, go ahead and spar and roll and whatever. There's always that one fucking guy that takes it 1,000%. When they only tell you to go 50%. And dudes are coming out there with black eyes, and I'm like,
oh, dude, I'm telling you, as a guy that's standing right now, I've got a torn meniscus. I have a bucket tear in my meniscus. Do you think a black belt did that to me or a white belt? It's always the white belt. It's always the spazzy white belt that hurts you. I've never rolled with a black belt one time and been injured or had them hurt me. It's just never been a thing. Keeping going, David Wolfhound, you're killing it. Thanks. We appreciate you. David. Are the SWAS guys killing Hell Week? No. So that's Special Warfare Assessment Selection guys. It's getting to be about time for their Hell Week. No, they're not. You don't kill Hell Week. You survive. I assure you they're doing terribly. When I get the numbers off of how many we selected from whatever career fields, happy to put them out. I think we figured out the answer. I swear y'all are shadow banned. Even if you look up the War Room, it's dug under a lot of other channels. Well, David, you know how you can help us? You can like this. You can subscribe. You can tell your friends about it. You can share it. You can comment. You're already here in the live chat, homie. You're doing a lot.
I tell you what, I didn't realize how many war rooms, YouTube channels were out there.
Right.
Until I got this set up and I Google it. I'm like, the war room. I'm like, oh. But it'll be like a channel talking about like personal development or some shit.
Right.
I'm like, this doesn't make any fucking sense.
That's not what war.
Hey, yeah. Eventually will blow up, and I get a lot of inspiration from some of these other bigger guys out there. One of the guys that we follow, he was like, dude, when he started his a podcast, for like the first two years, he had 2,000 subscribers. You know what I mean? So I'm like, holy fuck, like we're like within a month, and you know, so it's like, as long as you guys are watching, and as I, you know, watch our live episode, it's like we have 1,300 subscribers, but I look at our past episode, it's like 1,000 views, like consistently. So that shows me that we got the right audience and they're watching, you know what I mean? And as long as we're affecting 1,000 people, making them better, like we can't ask for anything else. Eventually this will take its course. Like we can't go into this with, you know, money or, you know, subscribers in mind. We went into it with helping people, and as long as there's a couple of people in here and they're getting help from it, that's all that matters.
And if we help enough people, maybe Jay will be able to afford a new mic and a new freaking camera. So maybe that'll be
What's wrong with my mic and my camera?
Well, I'll tell you, it's not the one you started with, homie, so it's not your go-to. Noah from the chat. Thoughts on the Houthi drone attacks? Will drones be the new go-to weapon? I'll let you answer that one, Jay.
Yep. Oh, absolutely. As we speak right now, when I was the first sergeant at SWIC, we literally overhauled like 3 of our courses that we used to teach. We got rid of all of them, and we started building from the ground up a drone program. Like if you're here at Fort Bragg and you're going down Gruber Road, off to the side of the roads, there's like big old parking lot sections with nets, and soldiers are learning how to fly drones. Like that is absolutely the way of the future. And it's wild, right? Because we didn't even start that. The freaking Iraqis or the Afghanis, like they were dropping rockets and mortars with drones, and that was like, and then the light bulbs came on. They were like, oh shit, like we might want to look into this. This has some potential. So we're definitely going that way. So drones and also electronic warfare, cyber, that's the way of the future. Trench war is over.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like that's not a thing anymore. China could easily just hack the US and cripple us in that manner, right? Russia could freaking EFP attack and we're done. Right? As we move forward towards the future, trench warfare isn't going to be a thing anymore, right? We can get thousands of drones launched to us across the Atlantic, and if they make it to our shores, we're fucked. Right. So it's definitely ways of the future. Definitely.
Yeah. And it's the way right now. You know, it's terrible to get on this death rectangle. I've never had a device in my life where I can just watch people die 24/7, but I can do it on this death rectangle here.
Yeah.
But if you look at the way that they're putting drones in, like what's the number one thing that you want to do to an opposing force? You want to demoralize that force so they don't have the will to fight. That's basic tactics. What are these drones doing? These FPV drones. You've seen them chasing the guy around the tank. You've seen a guy straight up taking his rifle and unaliving himself because he hears the drone overhead and he knows he's not going to get away from it. And he's like, you know what, I'm not dying in this field bleeding out. So he decided to take his own life. It's not going to be the way of the future. It is the future. The future is now, old man. Yeah. We are already there.
It's fucking scary is what it is. Like
it is.
The brains behind this shit. That's why I always tell when I was in Iraq and Afghanistan and we would get new soldiers in, I would always tell them, don't ever underestimate your opponents. No. Because that's one of the biggest mistakes that we did when we went in. We saw them as, you know, dudes in flip-flops and fucking man jams, and we underestimated them. But, dude, being in Iraq and seeing how creative they were getting with the IEDs, wasn't a fucking thing until they introduced it.
That's right.
And I saw the progression because I was there in 2003, and then I went back in 2006 and 2007, and it was like EFPs.
Dude,
then
it was
covert bombs.
Right. It's like you get remotely detonated, counters on pressure plates. So it wouldn't go up on 1 or 2. It would hit the third vehicle, right? Yeah. Completely autonomously. Yeah. You want to talk about something terrifying. The first time that I had that distinct moment where I was like, don't underestimate these guys. I want to say this had to be, I think it was like my 2011 deployment to Afghanistan. Remember the old school, the very first iteration of interactive, like playing with like a Wii? Remember when Xbox came out with the Kinect? And they would like follow you. You could play tennis with it. It was the first time that you could like interactively actually play, and it wasn't a controller. I can say this now because it's way past now, and I believe it wasn't classified when it happened. It was just a TTP that they were using. They set up Kinect motion sensors in a valley where we frequently had to fly through in Afghanistan because it was too high to fly anywhere else. They set up motion Kinect tracking systems that would kick off an IED that would throw shrapnel at a helicopter as it flew through the valley. That was the first time that I was like, this is commercially available, off the shelf stuff, and they're using it to kill a helicopter in flight. That is terrifying. That is absolutely terrifying. Yeah. It was the first time that I was like, these guys aren't dirt farmers. They're not people that don't know how to fight warfare. No. These are the same people that beat Alexander the Great. They're the same people that beat the Russians in the 70s. They're the same people. There's a reason why conducting a land war in Asia has never been a successful endeavor, and that's why we got our asses kicked in Afghanistan. It's why we ran tail between our legs with people falling off our aircraft in the middle of the night to get out of that place. And you can be as butthurt as you want about that statement, but it's all true. Mason,
dude,
speaking,
when was the last time we actually won a conflict?
We haven't. When?
If you had to, bro, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, China, not China, but Vietnam. It's like, fuck, man. Like, it's since Vietnam, it's just been Groundhog Day, right? We go to Iraq, Afghanistan, lost both of those. Syria. I'm like, fuck, man. Like, why are we doing this? Is there, like, some other agenda that we don't know about to where it's money and that's it? Like, when did winning not become a thing for the U.S.?
Right. Well, I'll tell you, it happened, briefly after this. So, hey, the question from Mason, you guys can see it up there in the chat now. They're prohibiting use of stages and platforms. Fun story, this only goes one way. They're not allowing counter protests. There have been every single other entity inside of Chicago that has petitioned to protest, to include like any left wing, so Black Lives Matter, Gays for Palestine, anything that is considered whatever, they've been given a permit right away. The only people that are experiencing the prohibition of the use of stages, platforms, restrooms, tents, canopies, and most critically sound equipment are right wing entities. And that was blown open by James O'Keefe. Here we go. Let's see.
Question.
Yeah, we had 28 messages here, so I'm going to figure it out. I'll put you up on the screen here as we talk about it. Thanks for the snip. Here we go. Let's go. Is it true that UFOs disable nuclear sites? That's a pretty interesting question. So there has been a whole bunch of reports to that. Essentially to that is like they'll fly, like as they fly past nuclear sites, UFOs will disable them. Jay, do you have any inputs on the aliens disabling our nuclear sites?
Dude, aliens aren't real, all right?
Aliens,
until I see one, they don't exist.
That's a hot take.
They don't exist.
That's a hot take from the man. You haven't seen the videos. Is that what you're saying? Come on. Until
I see one. Until one of them makes their way to North Carolina, comes down to Rayford, and shakes my hand and scared the shit out of me, they don't exist.
That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take. Jared, man, thanks so much, Jared.
I'm one of those dudes, man. I'm just one of those dudes. I got to see it to believe it.
I got you. That is absolutely hilarious. So you seriously haven't seen like the HUD video of all this stuff or what?
I try not to consume all sorts of shit on social media, man. I try not to, because there's just so much to consume. Like I was like, nah. So I don't watch those videos. Like, there's so much AI generated stuff. Like you don't know what you're looking at anymore. You don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's fake.
That's right.
And I just don't put myself through that headache.
Are you aware of the rapper named Prof? Do you know who that is at all?
I'm not.
He's like he's an independent
I'm old
rapper.
school, man. I only know a few. Yeah.
Gotcha. So he's he's one of the newer school. He's great. I love him. He's eccentric. He raps his ass off. He does it in a weird way. He's really good. I like him. But he said, these days it's impossible to ever know the truth. So $100 to anybody that can fucking catch and hold a goose. And that's exactly what you need. You don't want to hear somebody tell you something. Yep. You want to touch that goose. And until then, you're not going to believe in aliens. Aliens exist.
$1,000 for anybody that shows up to my house with an alien.
$1,000?
$1,000.
Dude, Jared and I were laughing. Like we were both in Vegas when the alien sighting in the backyard happened. If you remember that video where they had multiple different angles they had whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, I don't know how good aliens do against 300 blackout, but we're about to see.
Yeah.
Let's go with,
We're
let's
definitely
see.
not alone, but
Right.
I don't think they're here yet.
Gotcha. Is Gabby Garcia hot in your opinion? Who wins, her versus Craig Jones? So if you guys aren't tracking the Craig Jones International, Craig Jones wants to pay athletes. ADCC does not pay its grappling athletes very well. There's been a large move towards getting grappling athletes paid more money, led by Gordon Ryan. He's the only guy that has brought jiu-jitsu to the masses. He and Craig Jones have been like sort of rivals, sort of not for a long time, whatever. The B team jiu-jitsu and all this other stuff. Short story, Gabby Garcia is a huge woman that is super juicy. And by super juicy, I mean on steroids. And she is going to be doing an intersex match against Craig Jones. They've been joking about it for a long time, and now it's coming to fruition. First and foremost, Gabby Garcia is a true black belt. She also outweighs Craig Jones by like, I'm going to look up the stats right now, but Gabby Garcia outweighs Craig Jones by quite a lot. So let me just look. Gabby Garcia.
I'm Googling her too. I don't know who you guys are talking about.
Wait until you see. And you know what? We'll put some Gabby Garcia up on the page here.
Oh my God. She's bigger than me.
So now listen, okay, everybody. She's pretty big. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here.
Jesus Christ.
And we're just going to go. So this is Gabby. You guys should be seeing Gabby Garcia. So this is Gabby Garcia, okay? Gabby Garcia is very big. She is a very big chick. So now that you guys have the visualization of Gabby Garcia, let's look at her height and weight. She's got a crazy Gabrielle Lemos Garcia, born in 1985. She's a 38-year-old Brazilian athlete in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu out of Alliance. She's a black belt in BJJ and Judo. She is 209 pounds, 6'2". Okay,
Jesus
so
Christ.
Typically the rule of thumb, and this is why we have weight classes, usually at about 30 to 40 pounds in that range right there. It doesn't matter. You can be a black, and like we saw Mighty Mouse absolutely tuned up another black belt the other day, but that outweighed him by more than 30 pounds. Unless you are a world-class athlete, it does not matter. If you come into my gym, even if you're a belt higher, like let's say you're a 4-stripe brown belt, right? I'm a 4-stripe purple belt. Let's say you come in and you want to grapple with me and I weigh my normal 200 pounds and you're a 130-pound dude. Bro, there is a difference there that you can't make up. I'm that much bigger. I'm that much stronger. I can cause that much force. When you get me into positions, I can simply just move out of them. Craig Jones is not that big. So keep in mind, Gabby Garcia, 209, 6'2". Let's go Craig Jones, height and weight.
This will be interesting because, like, I look at her and I'm like, yeah, she could probably crush some spec op selections. You know what I mean?
Well, they've got so this is interesting. I thought Craig Jones was much smaller. They're not. They're the same size essentially. Craig Jones, he's listed at 213 pounds here.
Oh wow.
Middle heavyweight, 88 kilograms. Yeah, that's right. So the weight isn't going to be a problem. Okay, then Craig Jones wins because he's a guy. And guys and girls should not compete. And if he actually tries, he's going to beat Gabby Garcia. She's not stronger than him. If they're anywhere near the same size, Craig Jones is going to win. It's hilarious. Is she hot, in my opinion? I am married. I do not think other women are hot.
No. She's hideous.
Gross. John, I thoroughly enjoyed what you guys have been putting out. I think it'll be well received. Continue to grow soon. Hey, thanks. We appreciate you. Vixie, is it possible to volunteer for SF in the middle of my contract, no matter what the MOS? Jay, this is you. I have no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, so you can go to selection regardless of the MOS that you are in the Army as. Now, if you're currently in a pipeline of some sort, so if you're in a EOD pipeline and you're away to school, you can't just say, hey, I'm done with this, I'm going to SFAS. Like, you have to finish that pipeline or get dropped from that pipeline, get to another duty station, another unit, and then from that unit, put a packet together to go to selection. But yeah, you can definitely go to SFAS as an EOD guy or as an EOD failure, whatever the case may be. But if you're actively in a pipeline of some sort, you got to get dropped from that pipeline before you can go to SFAS.
There you go. How many people cross-train? This is interesting, too, because I actually didn't know this, but you guys don't have an off-the-street program anymore, right? 18 X-ray is dead?
No, we do. Okay. 18 X-ray is still a thing. It's majority of the force, like 50%, is 18 X-rays.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, so it's
straight off the.
It's probably the only program yeah, that's keeping us afloat as far as personnel's.
Nice. Okay, cool. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, with a little thing over it. Are you guys going to do episodes with guests in the future? Yes, we have some guests that are going to come on. We're just
Yes.
trying to establish
Yes.
ourselves and get to a point where people care enough about us interviewing people. Jay, do you want
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
open
Cause
the lid on any guests that we got lined up, or?
yeah. So we have because what we're trying to do here, like we're trying to establish like a good foundation with these live shows, making military news great again, right? Eventually, we're gonna start bringing on guests. Like I've spoken to Jason Sweets from SOCOM Athletes. Um, Aaron knows people from on the Air Force side. I know guys on the SF guy side. Jake has guys on the Navy SEAL side. Ben has guys on the Marine side. So the intent is to bring a variety of different people on and just kind of do like a man pile, interview style. But we want to make sure like we establish this segment first before we start introducing new content. We have a 10, 15-year plan for this thing, you know what I mean? So we just want to make sure like we do it right.
Yeah. Yeah. And you guys are going to see this is the greatest part. And we talked about this for a long time. Jay, Ben, Jake, myself, some of the backside dudes that don't get enough credit. Dylan and Carlos, what's up? We love you guys. You guys crush it for us. Producers, and they, show notes and all the other stuff they do for us. But we talked about this deliberately. And this is a thing that, I get it. It looks like we're switching platforms where, our times aren't solid yet. We're still trying to figure out the flow and how each other talks. We thought this was so important that we wanted to get on and bring you in from ground level as our day ones on the team to watch us as we evolve. We're making jokes about mics, and we're making jokes about being on time. We're making jokes about getting the team together. This is all that part of that storming phase that all new teams go through, right? Like, and when I say team, I mean y'all too. Like all 32 of you that are in the chat with us right now on this random day that we just decided to throw off, asking questions and engaging. We want you to build this with us real time as we go. We want you to see the evolution. We want you to come back next week and be like, oh, dang, Jay's camera looks great and his mic sounds awesome. And Jake is, Jake has a shirt on today, which is as much as we can get Jake to do, like we want you guys to see those improvements and be here with us. Like it was a point that we made deliberately. So yep, we're going to interview folks. We're going to bring on special guests. There's going to be a whole lot of other things that we've decided that are going to be awesome, to provide you value, to get you to watch. Because again, as long as we can hook you and get you to watch, we're gonna sneakily try to mentor you and guide you and pass our experience off to you. But we're totally honestly, man, we're building it in flight. It's happening as you see it in front of you.
That's the best way to build it, man.
Yeah,
because you
absolutely.
make mistakes and you learn from it.
Yeah, because if not, you'll die. If you're building it while you're flying, then there you go. So from Christian Luton, you may have touched on this in a while, or you may have touched on this a while ago. In your opinion, how do you think we, U.S., not Israel, should have handled rescuing the U.S. captives? Jay, I'll let you go first.
All right. So for starters, have they been rescued? I think they're still there, right?
They are still there. We still have 8 American hostages in Gaza as we speak.
All right. So that one's tricky because when it comes to hostage rescue operations, of course, you got your experts, which Delta Force and SEAL Team 6, right? You can try to use those guys to go in and execute, but then you also run into, you going into Gaza, you have a civilian population, those insurgents or those rebels down there, like we said earlier on when we were talking about Afghanistan and Iraq, those guys are not stupid, all right? And that we continuously underestimate those dudes. They're not stupid. And they know that you're going to want to come for your people, because that's what we do as Americans. We go get our own. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that you have a hard time getting those people out, whether it's using them as human shield, whether it's hiding them. Like, they're going to do their best to make sure that they always have the upper hand. So the fact that we haven't went in to go get them tells me a couple of things. One, we either don't know where they're at. 2, the opportunity hasn't presented itself. 3, we might be working other channels to, whether it's diplomatic or not, to get those people out. But the fact that we don't have them yet has nothing to do with Israel, has nothing to do with Palestine. That is us on the U.S. side just not having what we need to go execute that rescue operation. Because if we had the intel and there was an opportunity, best believe Delta and one of those other guys would have been over there trying to get our guys out.
Yeah. Yeah. To think, and people will politicize these things all the time. And I fall victim to it as well. But, you know, to say, what's the administration doing to get these people out of there? What are we doing? Why do we still have 8 American hostages over in Gaza right now? I guarantee there's a team somewhere with eyes on. I knew when I was in the area, when I was in, any area that I knew about every single American civilian that was what we call DUS one, like duty status unknown. I knew about every single American that was either in captivity or that was duty status unknown, because if things popped up on the chatter, those things would pop off and they immediately move to the front of your list. If that mission came up even for a second, we're like, hey, we got a ping on this guy. We think we know where he is. We're going to go try to at least find him or get to that area. It would happen very quickly and you'd have to be prepared for it. So I guarantee there is a team that's planning for it right now. So from the AJC org news, these are the 8 Americans that are still in Gaza. Eden Alexander, and I'm going to mess these names up, Atay Chen, Sagul Dekelchen, Hirsch Goldberg Pollen, Gadi Hagazi, Judith Weinstein, Omar Nutra, and Keith Siegel are the 8 Americans that are, in fact, today still being held in tunnels in Gaza.
Dude, I don't know if you've ever been in a tunnel or if you ever seen one from that region. Bro, it is fucking ridiculous.
It is
like I went down there back in 2020 to do some training with the Israelis. Bro, they took us through like tunnel training. It's fucking something else. It is, and again, just the ingenuity that these fucking people in that region of the world come up with is ridiculous. Mm-hmm. It's like tunnels, and like they're tiny people. You know what I mean? And me and my guys were, beefy fucking meat cakes trying to go through this tunnel. And, bro, it was fucking, like, I'm trying to fit in this tunnel, and I got to maneuver my weapon system, and I got to have a shield in front of me. And it was like, I don't know how you guys do this, but they do it every day. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, being in confined space is no joke, man. Like, I've been in, tunnels like that, subterranean warfare. Obviously, for the Israelis, I've worked with the Israelis before. Obviously, subterranean warfare is a thing that they know they have to do, and they train to it because, again, tunnels are so in vogue, because when you build a tunnel under a hospital, or when you build a tunnel under civilians, it protects your forces, and that's exactly what Hamas has done in the specific region, and Israel knows that, so they train to it. Being in confined spaces absolutely sucks. Like getting lowered into a hole that you have to like a cat, like move your body in such a way that you can't go in, fully kitted up, and you're wearing a respirator and, trying to do all these other things. It gets super duper crazy, super quickly, and is not comfortable. Jared, you had a question about warrant officers in the United States Air Force. Short answer, no. I don't believe warrant officers are ever going to come back in the Air Force for a couple different reasons, but the number one reason is because pilots hate enlisted people, and God forbid would the pilots allow something of like an enlisted sort of, because warrant officers are that in between. They're that technical expert that are never meant to go do the political positions that officers do, but they are meant, especially if you look at organizations like the 160th, their chief warrant 4s, chief warrant 5s, they have tens of thousands of hours, not just thousands of hours. In an aircraft, they have tens of thousands of hours. And it's because all they have to do is fly. If you don't have to fly a desk after 03, which is basically what the Air Force makes their officers do, there are some very limited officers out there that are, major and lieutenant colonel that are actually flying regularly or flying a lot. But the bulk of that is done by the junior officers, right? The Air Force pilot mafia that exists now, the fighter mafia that exists now that runs the Air Force, there is no way that they would bring back a warrant officer position. I want to say our last warrant officer retired in 94. I think that's when they got out. And ever since then, it's been, we had enlisted pilots back in World War II, or not World War II because we didn't exist. The Army Air Corps was, before the Air Force, 1947, September 18th, 1947 was the Air Force birthday. But we had enlisted pilots at one point. We had people that were running around that were doing those positions, and we had warrant officers for ground forces, especially in AFSPEC war or in AFSOC. It makes the most sense to have warrant officers, but the only thing that the Air Force detests more than flying warrant officers is walking warrant officers. So, just being completely true about it, I don't think that we ever see warrant officers again. Jay, you've worked with warrant officers before. What's the value of having walking warrants on your team?
Dude, they're a waste of fucking time and breath and space. Right?
I've got two flying warrant officers, but one of them's retired now. But I got a CW4 brother that's a pilot. I can't wait. Why are they a waste of time?
Well, NSF specifically, because you you take a regular guy, a shooter, and you make him a warrant officer, and all he does is fucking risk assessments. Like, that's his bread and butter, risk assessments for training. And I'm like, why even pay the guy that much money so he can do paperwork? It's
right.
Like those guys think that they're officers, and in reality they're not, and they just take up fucking space in the team room, but don't really do anything. Dude, most of the times, if you have a warrant on a team, like, you don't even see him. He disappears. Like, we're out of training. Hey, chief, like, what are you doing? Risk assessments. But yeah, we're going to the range. Yeah, you can't go to the range without these risk assessments. You guys go, and I'll email it to you once I'm done with my TPT reports. And I'm like, what the fuck, man?
But isn't that the point, though? Isn't he supposed to be doing those risk assessments and not going, like, do you want a shooter? Because that's not what warrant officers are supposed to be, right? They're supposed to be that
No,
team
man.
chief.
The Bravo, anybody on the team could do the risk assessments. Like, the Bravos can do that. Anybody can do it. It's like, dude, what do you do, chief? Like, what do you do? Like, that's a running joke in SF. What exactly do you do here? I'm the assistant commander. I'm like, the commander doesn't.
The commander does not need an assistant.
On the Army sign is for is like big Army. Yeah, no, the 18 Alpha doesn't need an assistant. Like, that captain doesn't need an assistant. If he needs a fucking assistant, he shouldn't be a captain on a team, right? Like, you are an officer from West Point or whatever. You telling me that you need somebody to do your fucking paperwork for you? Like, no, your entire job is paperwork. That team sergeant is the one running the team. So what are the two officers doing? Can't wait to get Jake in.
I love it. Yeah, this is definitely like, what
do you guys
flaming
do?
Jake. Yeah, what would you guys? And I'll tell you what, it's funny too that the two enlisted guys are on here early. While the officers are off doing whatever. It's not that we wanted to get to work. Yeah, they're doing a risk assessment for this podcast, and it's basically Ben counseling Jake, telling him what not to say. Ben's like, hey man, I got a whole life that's connected to this thing. Can you do me a favor, not get me canceled? Nah, that ain't how Jake rolls.
So in Big Army, they're supposed to be subject matter experts in, like, for example, supply or pilots and all. I'm like, nah, man, like, you don't. It's just a way for the military to spend more money that should be going to enlisted dudes, in my opinion.
Okay.
We don't need
them.
Yeah.
So warrant officers
are smart.
Yeah, no, they are not. I would not say that either. The thing that I do like about warrant officers is that you never have to mess with the track, right? And that's why the pararescue community has been saying for a long time, like, hey, if you gave me the decision, right? If you gave me the decision once I hit E7, and you were like, all right, Aaron, you're in E7 now. You can either pick to keep going this track, and you can track towards like E9, and you can go, but you're going to have to do all the political stuff. You're going to come off team. You're going to go get that school assignment. You're going to go, we need you to get your 4-year degree. You're going to have to go be a wing chief somewhere. You're going to have to strive to make E9. We really want you to groom towards that E9. The Marines kind of do the same thing with their gunnery sergeant and their first sergeant track, right? Like you can kind of just pick. You'd be like, no, I want to be a master guns, or you can pick and you can go a different path, right? And I can't remember what they call it. Somebody put that in the chat. What do the Marines do with the 2 tracks that they make their senior NCOs do? But I'll tell you what, if you'd have looked at me at E7 and you're like, hey, here's the deal. You're going to be a warrant officer 1. You're still going to be a team leader. You're going to still have all the other stuff. You're still going to be a PJ, but we're going to pay you as a warrant officer 1, and you never get to leave the squadron. The best that you're ever going to do is be a flight chief, like a co-flight chief. You're going to run the flight while this other knucklehead E7 kind of rotates through and gets his reps on the team before he goes out to his dork staff position. I always felt like that was a good place for us to be, because you could just focus on, once you're called out, you're a jump master, you're a dive supervisor, you're a tactical, fixed wing and rotary wing team leader, you're a, rescue jump master, you're all, precision jump master, you're all these things that could provide capabilities, and you should be training the people that are on your flight to do so. I just think that if I didn't have to do the political stuff, because I'll tell you what, that's what killed me at the end. The last 6-7 years really of my career of having to engage in these political conversations. They don't want senior NCOs to be senior NCOs anymore. You think senior NCOs and you think Sam Elliott and We Were Soldiers Once and Young. As he walks across nobody walks across Sergeant Major's grass. Like the chief is supposed to instill fear into you. When you see that senior enlisted, when you see Top walk into your building, he's only there to kick ass and chew bubblegum, and the Top does not chew bubblegum. He's just there to kick ass and make sure everybody's following shit and whatever. Man, and at least speaking in the Air Force, man, that's not it. That ain't the way things are. You start getting to E8 And basically what they want you to do is they want you to be a junior officer, and they want you to go get their degree, and they want you, oh, you're going to support the commander and be a sounding board. I'm not here to hold some officer's hand. You get paid twice what I make in your base pay. You go do your job. I'll do my senior NCO job. But that's not the way it is in reality. And we always joke about how. Yeah. Go ahead.
At least on the SF side, and I know a lot of warrants on the SF side are going to be upset at this, but so in our field, E8, Master Sergeant, like that's the hardest rank to make.
Sure.
And Big Army, E7 is the hardest rank to make because you're a platoon sergeant in Big Army, like you are in charge of 30 guys. And SF, you're a team sergeant, you're in charge of 12 guys. Like I always joke, like when it comes to SF, and I'm sure it's the same in the other spec op fields, like that team sergeant is Mike Tyson, right? Like he is the heavyweight champion in that team room. He bullies everybody, to include the captain.
Right. Yep.
It is what it is, because the captain is a brand new 18 Alpha out of the course. He's looking to that senior E8 that's been at group for 16, 17 plus years for guidance, right? Like everybody wants to be that guy. Truth of the matter is, all the E7s that go the warrant officer route, they can't make E8. And they want to be in charge, so they go become a warrant. And when they put on those fucking dots, they're like, oh, I'm in charge now. Bitch, go sit in the corner. Like, no, like I'm still in charge of this fucking team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's the reality. Command, you're not in charge. Yeah. Command is like that's something that you have to know the difference too. Like officers are in command, but I'm in charge. Senior enlisted especially, I'm in charge.
They just take the ass chewing when we fuck up.
That's basically it. The best officers do. They're just a heat shield, right? Like you can tell bad stuff is going on over there, but you don't get the full front of it. Maybe you're like, it's a little bit warm on this side from what I did, but that guy's taking all of the heat, and that's the way that it's supposed to be. That's the way that it works. People get this, especially in the Air Force, people get it fucked up, but they're like, oh yeah, the officers are leading men into combat. Are they?
They
they
sell the team. They sell the team, get us the best missions, and they take ass chewings. And I love my team leaders that I've had in the past, but all the best ones that I've had, they've always, supported the team sergeant. They've always sold the team like it was nobody's fucking business, and they always protected us. And knowing that, we did our best to make sure we didn't get them in too much trouble.
Right. So speaking on that, because it's a really interesting thing to explore, what are the best traits of officers? So when you got a new officer onto your team, we all know what a bad one looks like, right? We can be negative and talk about bad officers all day long. When you got an officer that knew what they were doing, or at least understood what they were supposed to be doing, what did that look like?
So there's a lot of support, right? Because support/communication. So when I had my team leader, one thing that we would always do behind closed doors would be to communicate with each other. He would give me his intent, like, hey, Jay, I want this to be the best shooting team in the entire company. And I was like, yep, I hear what you're saying, sir, but here's how we can get there. And the amount of time that you're giving me, we might not be able to get there, right? So we would essentially married. Like I always say, like you and the warrant and the captain, like you guys are, it's like a freaking three-way, right? Like we're married to each other. So communication is key. Like he knew as the captain, even though he was in command, he was not in charge. And a lot of officers can't swallow that pill. Right. They want to go out there and these are my men, flank that mountain, and everybody's supposed to do it. When in reality, you do that, that junior Bravo is going to look at you and tell you to shut the fuck up and sit down, right? Like, so you got to check that ego as an officer in SF or in special operation and understand that you don't know what you don't know, and you need to be okay with taking criticism, right? So communication was a big one. Checking his ego was another big one. And just knowing that, hey, like, I don't know what I don't know. I don't know anything. And it's okay to lean on my men for feedback, right? And then integrity. Like, the guys on the team are going to be the guys on the team. Like, they're not on the team because they all have integrity. Like, they all, like, no, they're a bunch of knuckle draggers that me as the team sergeant have to, like, pull in from time to time, right? Like, it is what it is. But my captain, my leader, like, he has to be that moral compass. He has to be that example along with me and the warrant. Like, we have to show the team what right looks like. We can't be a Charlie Mike's fucking, getting drunk with them. You know what I mean? Because then when something happens, first thing they're gonna do is like, "What the fuck, sir? Like you can't."
I was just getting hammered with you.
Right there with me.
Right? Yeah. I was just getting hammered with you. Why are you counseling me for this? You were in the car waiting.
Yeah. And then he also has to work just as hard as the dudes. Mm-hmm. When the guys are prepping for the range and lifting heavy shit and getting sweaty and jamming fucking magazine, my captain was always there. Right? He was always there with the dudes in the trenches doing the same bitch work. He wasn't behind his computer working on fucking TPT reports. He was getting dirty with the rest of the boys, right? And then we saw that and we're like, man, like he's one of us. He's trying to be one of us, right? So when we get done with our shit, we're like, hey, sir, what do you need? Like, what do you need us to do, right? It was like, that's how you become a team and that's how you become one of the boys without necessarily selling out.
Yeah. Young officers that I used to talk to, I give them the 3 Ps. You have to be professional because I'm going to need you to be able to stand in front of anybody and you're going to have to defend these idiots with everything. And I would just tell them straight up. I would give them the same brief that it sounds like you. I'm like, listen, man, you have a bunch of savages who 6 months a year you expect them to go and get into gunfights and win at all costs to protect their homies, to do anything that like the highest adrenaline stuff anywhere. You cannot expect them to turn that off in the other 6 months of the year. So you're going to have to answer some uncomfortable questions. So I need you to be professional. I need you to understand. I'll never put you at risk. I'll give you the information that you need and I'll never hamstring you, but you're going to have to be professional enough to get in front of somebody and make sure that, you protect the guys because that's what you're here to do. You're not here to punish the guys. You're here to protect this team because this team is going to protect you. So that's the first P there is professionalism. The second one is persistence because I'd tell them, listen, the team doesn't like you. You're an officer. David, to your point, David in the chat. Let me make sure I'm reading this right name out. David Martinez, I guess I shouldn't try to be a warrant officer. You can, but you're going to need persistence because the team hates you and they're not going to get used to you until you're around all the time, until you are persistent in your presence and you were there all the time. We can add that as the 4th P, but you have to be persistent. You have to be there all the time. You have to make sure that you are ready to go. And then you have to be a people. And I know that doesn't make sense, but these officers, I swear to God, I don't know what kind of school they put them into where they teach them how to talk on LinkedIn and they teach them how to do stuff that regular people would never do. But it's like the second that they put that on, warrant officer or otherwise, they forget that people are just people, man. Like you're going to have guys that screw stuff. It's always the worst. You can see an officer that's probably not the best officer. You can see when they start to turn. And guys will say, oh, you forgot what it was like in the team rooms. You see this when guys go to the 3 shop. You see it when guys get away from the teams and they start walking around. They're like, oh, is that an authorized uniform combination? Is that uniform top and bottom? I'm like, hey, bro, I'm covered in blood. I just got out of the field, man. Like, do you think I'm wearing this around because I want to look cool? I'm wearing it because I've been packing out for the last 4 hours because no one's here to help me and we have to do it on our own. And the guys are sweaty and I let them dress down. The second an officer loses that and they turn that corner and they forget that they're just people that are working with other dudes that they've known forever, that's when they're too far gone. I don't know what lobotomy happens at 04 with these idiots, but they just completely forget everything that they ever learned or anything that they ever saw when they were on team. It's the most frustrating thing.
Absolutely. But what else we got? Right. Got some more questions.
Here we go. Kind of off topic. Do you guys game at all? PC or console? Jay, do you game at all?
No, man. I'm trying to keep my son away from that shit as much as possible.
Dog, I don't have any time for fucking video games. I play one game, and I'm sorry for not reading your screen name out. Let me read it out because I appreciate you asking, Mason. So, Mason, I play one game. I've played one video game for like the last 5 years. I started playing with my little brother. I play online infrequently. Like every once in a while, I want to see how bad I actually am as opposed to versus the computer. I play NHL. I've got NHL 2024. I will be buying NHL 2025. It's a fun, fast-paced game that I can just kind of turn my brain off. I play it like maybe 3 hours a week. I will sit down and I'll knock out a couple games of hockey. I feel super duper. Man, it makes me feel like such a piece of shit. And this isn't a judge against anybody that's gaming. But literally in my head, before I turn the Xbox on, I'll be like, wait a second. Are you saying you ain't got nothing left to do right now? Everything's clean. Everything's put away. There's no content that you could produce. Nothing needs edited. Nothing. You can't engage somewhere. You can't have a conversation with somebody that you could possibly level up with. I'm going to waste an hour of my time playing this hockey game. Sometimes the answer is yes. And I play hockey, but that's as much as I've gamed.
I think the only splurge I do is, fantasy football once the NFL season kicks off. Like
I
I'll
don't count
nerd
that
out
as
on that. Like,
gaming.
I'll be in like,
I'm gonna smoke the
it is,
balls
man, 'cause
off
it
of your
takes your time.
fucking ass too. I cannot wait to beat you in that
All
fantasy
right,
football
all
league. $20 too. I thought we were grown ups. I saw $20 on ESPN, and I was like, "Tell me you've never played fantasy before without telling me." Am I about to beat
Well,
your family league? Is that what's happening?
No, it's some of my old teammates, and it's
Okay.
1 out of 3 leagues that I'm in, and that just happens to be the cheapest one. So
Okay.
I'm glad
I
it's
got
that
it.
way because I
Don't
got
try
mouths
to-
to feed, so I can't be that. And every Sunday, I just
Yeah.
give DraftKings my money.
Bro,
So, there you go.
see, I stayed away from the DraftKings so far. I live in Vegas. I can go put down bets, but I will say, fantasy football. I'm down to you're my third league as well. The other 2 leagues I have, one's a legacy league that I've been playing in since 2002. It's not like all my friends from Ohio. No, not joking. And then the other one that I play in is in memory of our friend. It's a bunch of PJs. There's 1 officer and 9 PJs in that one. And that one is just a dumpster fire, like absolute just trades and shit shows and people trading picks from 2 years in the future. Last year I didn't have I had 0 picks in the first 6 rounds, and we have a big penalty for being last. Like, you're the golden dickosaurus.
Yeah.
Like, you have to take it everywhere. Like, you have to, like, we have, I got a tattoo last year over a bet. Like, not joking. And I mean, that's just mid-season. I didn't lose the season. I came in second, and I was 1 start away. So I think I lost the champion. I went from zero picks in the first 6 rounds to the championship game, and I lost by like 0.14 points. 1.4 points or something like that.
That's the worst loss too. You're like, oh, damn it.
Well, it was close. Well, it was a loss that I should have started. I had the win on my bench for the championship, and I did not start Joe Flacco of all people. I'm a Cleveland homer till I die, and I did not start Joe Flacco in the championship game. He would have won He would have won.
Still playing. Jesus Christ. That
39-year-old good-looking motherfucker from the Northeast. But yeah, I don't count fantasy football as gaming. I count that as like, that's the only way that I've ever been able to look at my wife and be like, hey, for the next 9 hours, I need to watch these 14 football games. Luckily, she's really good at fantasy football too. So, man, we throw that Red Zone channel on, and that's a good time amongst the Love family.
Don't talk to me for the next 3, 4, 5, 6.5 months.
Right.
Just let me
Exactly.
be.
Jay, this one's for you, coming directly out of the chat. Stargazing, Lonnie. Deciding between active duty greenside corpsman and reserve 18 X-ray. Any guidance?
Well, for starters, we don't have reserves 18 X-rays, right? We don't, like, you can't be a SF guy and be on the reservist side. You can go National Guard, 19th or the 20th. You can go to one of those entities, right? Can't speak to the corpsman side. That's what a medic in the Navy. But it all depends on what you're trying to do, right? Because guys ask me this all the time. Should I go to college or should I join, the Army and go 18 X-rays? Like, well, what are you trying to do? If you're if you want that adventure right now and you want to go do shit for your country, like, you can always go to college some other time. Like, you can always become a medic in SF, right? And do medical stuff at the highest level and still get to kick in doors and shoot people in the face. You can do both. You can have your cake and eat it too. You just need to figure out if that's the route you want to go, and just know that to get there, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. You're going to have to apply yourself 110% and go through that grind to pass selection, to pass the Q course. And once you get to one of the national group locations, then you can figure out, hey, do I want to go work as an EMT? Do I want to go work as a nurse at a hospital and then still do 18 Delta stuff on the weekend? Like, it is possible. You just have to make that decision. And I always tell people that me or Aaron or Ben or Jake, we can't make that decision for you. We can't tell you, hey, go be an 18 Delta or go be a PJ. Everyone has to make that decisions for themselves, because when you're in the trenches and you're getting your shit pushed in by Big Sarge, like, we're not getting it, you are, right? Like, you're the one that's going to decide whether you want to quit or not, because you can't handle it. And one of the reasons can't be, Jay told me to go, so I have to make it. Like, that shit isn't going to work. So you have to dig deep and talk to your loved ones and make that decision for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we get this question a lot too. And it's hard for me to answer when I would first start. Like, this question almost made me mad, right? Because it's almost just assuming you're going to be able to do whatever it is that you want. You're just going to breeze through. Like, we'll have well-meaning, it's usually younger folks, is they'll hit us up and they'll be like, well, I want to be a PJ, but really what I want to do is I want to be a doctor. I want to spend a little bit of time over at CAG, and then I want to go ahead and be an astronaut. Like, the audacity of this 18-year-old, even 17, 18-year-old kid to think that they're just going to breeze through. Like, you realize it's a 91% attrition rate to be a PJ, and you're already looking towards the next thing. Like, it's important to manifest. It's also, I'd say, probably more important to be realistic in any sense. So now when I answer this question, I bring it all the way back to brass tacks, right? So it looks like, and I think we're messing up some nomenclature here, but active duty greenside corpsman, I mean, that would, unless you mean medic in the Army, like an active duty greenside medic, or if you want to go 18 X-ray reserve, we already handled the 18 X-ray reserve thing. But, people ask us, well, I want to do, this versus that. Well, first, I mean, do you want to be in the Air Force or do you want to be in the Army? People will be like, should I be an 18 Delta or a PJ? And I'm like, okay, well, those are completely different jobs, but that doesn't matter. First of all, do you want to serve? Do you want to be in the military? Because if you fail out, and it's statistically likely that you are going to fail out, you're not even going to make it halfway through training. That's just what the stats are. And I'm sorry that I offended you, Mr. Spartan. I'm sure you'll die in the pool before you'll quit. But I have thousands of data points to tell me that you're lying, and until proven otherwise, you're going to fail. So the question then is, do you want to be in the Air Force? Because when you inevitably fail out, when you're not one of those 9% that graduates Special Warfare Assessment Selection down at, the Chapman Training Annex at Joint Base San Antonio, do you want to be in the Air Force? If that answer is no, then it's a moot conversation. We just got to stop right there. It's a non-starter. Then we're going to have to figure it out. Like, do you want to go be in the Army to be this 18 Delta? Okay. Do you want to be in the Navy if you don't make it into SEALs? Like, these are the sort of questions that people have, and it's the question that nobody ever talks about, right? So many, especially like people in our space, they're so willing to jump in and be like, oh, well, 18 Deltas are better at this, and 18 Deltas are better at that, and PJs are better at this, and PJs are better at that. They're like, all right, well, how about being an Army MP versus being a security forces guy in the Air Force? Because that's more than likely what we're talking about. And you have to start there and be like, okay, well, where do you want to start? Do you want to work in the Army? Okay, then that's a start. And then we can start talking about these jobs. It's just so hard to have these conversations. Like, I get it. There are people out there like, if you go look at the One's Ready podcast with RJ Casey, he's got a freaking ridiculous story. He was an 18 Delta, then he was a PA, then he was a PJ, then he worked for the agency on and off for a long time. And then he ended up transitioning over to being a combat rescue officer. That guy is the exception. Like, that guy is talented in a way and fit in a way and smart in a way that I just am not. I could not do that, or I would have. I tried to do, PJ the first time, and I failed. Like, I had to leave the course, and I spent 5 years in the Air Force paying my penalty for that. So the first question you got to ask yourself is like, hey, if you're like me and you go in and you're not ready, be it maturity or physical fitness or any number of other things that you could fail out for, do you want to be in the Air Force? Because if you don't, if you hate the Air Force and you only like this one career field, well, then you got to be realistic with yourself and go, okay, well, then maybe I don't want to go and try this thing. And it's crazy to hear from a guy. Like, I have a vested interest in hoping that you become a pararescueman. However, I also am intellectually honest enough to tell you that there are so many drawbacks that you're asking a shitty question. So the question that I would ask you, person that was like, hey, Guard and Reserve and Greenside Corpsman, Reserve, whatever else, do you want to be active duty or do you want to be in the Reserve? That's question number one. It looks like you decided on the Army. I'll make that assumption. Stargazing Lonnie, just go ahead and hit me up if that's correct. It looks like you want to be in the Army. Okay, tight. Well, active duty and reserve have their own pros and cons, and you got to figure that out. And then once we get that part of the algorithm done, we can go on to the next part of the algorithm, right? Like, you make the decision with the best information that you got. You can go ahead and be this 18, series person. Great. And maybe there is a guard position for you in the 19th or 20th. Cool. That's so far down the road, right? Number one, active duty, guard and reserve. That's where you got to start. I talked enough, Jay.
And then make sure you speak to those that are close to you, because they're the one that's going to have to deal with the bullshit that you're going to have to go through, whether it's training, failing, reapplying, sadness, ups, downs, lows. Make sure you have some peoples in your corner, because you're going to need it.
Yep. And from Stargazing Lonnie, so Greenside Corpsman is Marine medics. Okay, so now we're having a completely different conversation. So do you want to be in the Army or do you want to be in the Marines? That's your question. That's where you need to start. Because I'll tell you what, being a Greenside Corpsman ain't easy. And you could fail out of that bad boy. And even if you succeed, you're going to be in the Marines. I had a he actually was an honorary PJ. His name's Diori. Diori is a badass. Diori was a sergeant major in the Army. He had 18 deployments with the Gable Stone guys, with CAG, with Delta Force. He had 18 deployments over the course of his career. He was an honorary PJ. He was an instructor at the schoolhouse with us, and his stories were absolutely crazy. I mean, he was, no kidding, he got into that unit just in time to be qualified as 9/11 happened, as 2001 kicked off. So he was there for the hairiest of stuff when there was nobody else in country and doing crazy stuff. His stories were crazy. And he would tell us, he'd be like, he had this very distinct way of speaking. I'm not gonna do the Diori accent. If you guys knew him, it'd be funnier. But he would look at us and go, hey man, you can be as cool as you want. Guess what? You're still in the Army. They're still gonna make you do CBTs. You're still gonna have to go to SHARP training. You're still gonna have to do all these other things. When the Army stands down and you got to go to the Army birthday and go on the Army run, guess what? I'm not exempt. I was an E9 at a Tier 1 unit. And I think he was, I don't want to misspeak for him, I think he was a troop chief. Like, I think he was, no kidding, a shot caller. Like, amongst E9s, by the way, that unit has like 30% or something of all the Army's
Everybody's
E9s.
E9s.
Dude,
everybody's E9s over there.
The first brief I gave, I'll never forget, it was in Missoula. This was, had to be 2009. Like summer 2009-ish. I stood up and my team leader, it was my first deployment, my team leader was like, hey, I'm going to give you have to brief. Okay, so you just remember your standard brief, whatever. And I was like, cool. So I stood up and I was like, hey, everybody, I'm going to be your PJ, giving you the Annex 5 PRC SAR brief for the day. My name's Staff Sergeant Love. I'd ask you to introduce yourself as team members going around the table so I know who I'm talking to. And it was Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major. They were like, this is our new guy, Master Sergeant, Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major, Sergeant Major. There were like 8 Sergeant Majors and 4 Master Sergeants going on target with us. And I was blown away. Like, I was like, are you joking? Like, I had no clue that it was like that. But all that to say, right? All that to say, he still looked at us. He was like, listen, I was that high up. I was that cool guy. Guess what? I was still in the Army. And if I hated being in the Army, it doesn't matter how cool you are. If you hate being in the Marines, it doesn't matter. If you don't, even if you get that job, there you have to do the weighing of, is this right for me in my life at this time? If you value education, you're not going to the Army or the Marines. I'm just telling you straight up. The Navy either. They're not going to pay for it in the way that the Air Force will. If your goal is to get a 4-year degree and do something with that 4-year degree later, I'm just going to tell you, regardless of job, just go Air Force. They have the best education benefits. Now, if that's not what you care about, and by the way, I'm that guy. 22 years in, I do not have a 4-year degree. I have all the credits in the world and 3 associate's degree. And you know what that means? Jack and shit. People laugh me out of their office. They don't care. They don't give a shit about that. But if you don't care like me, if you just want to go do the job and be on team and go deploy, then don't go to then don't go to the Air Force, because you ain't going to do that. Especially today with the ops tempo and the likelihood of you making it in there. Like, I love it when Jake just shits on the Air Force and on AFSOC in general, because it's tough to make it in. To say that you're going to go to AFSOC, crazy. The odds are not in your favor. So if you're trying to go to do that job, education probably can't be a primary or secondary motivator for you to do that. And you have to weigh it like that with everything. So when people are like, oh, I want to be a PJ, then a doctor, then an astronaut, then work at the CIA, then I'm going to be a crow. Like, once I get enough missions, I'll go ahead and be an officer and come back and be like, bro, you're not going to do any of that.
Good luck.
Yeah. Like, sorry, but you are not going to do any of that shit. Have fun. Because there's very few people that would do it. So stargazing, Lonnie, I think we covered it there in the follow-on. Jared Phillips, Jay, this is a good question for you. Would there be better leadership, in your opinion, if officers started their career, if they started as enlisted and then vectored to the officer route later, rather than coming straight from college? I will say that our European brothers do this. Like, you cannot be an officer until you're an E5. You have to go all the way through E5 and then you can track to officer. So in your opinion, would it be better for all officers to be Mustangs, to be prior enlisted guys?
Yes, 100%. And I covered this, I want to say it's about a year ago. I had this concept that, well, I spoke openly to folks while I was in. I was like, dude, we should adapt the police force model. Like, everyone else does it, right? So, well, I guess not everyone else, but it makes sense in the police force, right? Like, before you become an officer and you're sending guys into harm's way, you should know what that looks like. You should be a private. You should make it all the way up to E6. And then at that point, you can, make a decision. Do you want to stay an enlisted guy, or do you want to go be an officer? I think they should, man, because till this day, some of the best officers that I've had were prior enlisted guys that went and became officers. And it's because they know what it's like on the enlisted side, right? Like, I think there's a lot of opportunities missed with us doing it the way that we do it now. Because when you think of it, man, you got a fucking kid. All he did was go to college for 4 years and just party and then just fucking drink. And then I'm downrange, and then he shows up, and he's a fucking second lieutenant, and now he's in charge of me. Like, big Army side, right? Like, soft side, that's different, right? But big Army, like, a second lieutenant shows up from partying his ass off in college, drinking and banging chicks, and now he's in Iraq, Afghanistan, and he's leading 30 fucking dudes.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, that doesn't make any sense.
That's crazy.
I mean? Like, they should, yeah. And if they have college, then have them come in as an E4 or an E5. I don't care, but they definitely need to pound some pavement in the motor pool or wherever, and earn the right to go to OCS and become an officer. I think our military would look a lot different now if we did, because I think that's what Israel does. Like, all their folks starts off at
Everybody in Europe does the same thing. Like the Norwegians were like, I mean, for sure the Norwegians, the Swedes, and the Finns do it. Because I work specifically with them. I believe maybe Germany does do it. I mean, dude, I'll tell you what, it was so common that when I heard somebody that was like, they actually had officers that didn't have to go the enlisted route first, that would actually pique my interest. I'd be like, oh, really? You guys are the ones that don't make them go enlisted. That's how common it is. Basically in everybody else forces. Everywhere else, like firemen do it the same way. Like you have to be a fireman before you can be a lieutenant, before you can be a chief. Like you have to go through the actual progression. It's kind of like jump master.
Go through some shit.
Yeah, it's like the same thing with jump master to me. There's two analogies that I use for this. Is number one, like what's the biggest compliment you can give to an officer, and you hear it going away a lot, right? The biggest compliment that I can give to an officer is like, man, this guy is like the enlisted man's officer. This guy acts like an enlisted guy, but he uses his rank how it's supposed to be. Some of the Mustangs that I've worked for, and Mustangs is a colloquialism for officers that were enlisted beforehand. That's what they're called in the military, called Mustangs. Those dudes are fucking awesome. Conversely, academy grads, which are they're the bane of my existence. These dudes, you take some sheltered 17-year-old dork that's only cared about getting a congressional nomination somewhere in Annapolis or out at West Point or over in the Colorado Springs. You take some dork that's been hyper-focused on that, hyper-focused on the military. Then you take them and you put them in this insular environment where, number one, they're partying and drinking every week, just like every other college, to pretend that the service academies do not have a huge underbelly of problems like sexual assault, all of the college problems that we have, underage drinking to excess, all of these other things. You're insane. You are freaking crazy. So then you take that sheltered individual and then you hype him up for 4 years and you tell him he's going to be a new leader of America and he's going to be an officer. And then you put him out and you've got this sheltered dork of a kid, barely 22 years old with acne and not a fully formed brain. And then you're going to put that kid in the cockpit of an aircraft, and that kid is supposed to talk to me about how we're going to insert into this tactical scenario. And he's got zero time on earth. Bitch, I got kids as old as you. If you think you're going to be a rescue pilot and we're on the same team, no, the fuck we're not. We're not on the same team. You wear the same uniform as I do, except mine has one thing that yours doesn't, which is to actually touch the ground on an operation, as opposed to yours, which never has. It is the most frustrating fucking thing in the world. And you have to almost spend your time, especially with those academy grads, breaking those habits. Very few and far between do you get somebody that's self-aware, that's mature, that's a young officer that goes, hey man, I know that I'm supposed to be in command. That doesn't mean I'm in charge. I'm going to hook into my E7 like I'm supposed to, that senior E6, and I'm going to learn. The ROTC guys are pretty good at that. The Mustangs are great at that. The academy guys by far are the worst at it. The ring knocking, self-flailing. I can't believe the disdain that I have for the service academies. I don't know how, like, do you guys have the same thing? Do you guys hate service academies? I think Trent on one of our things, he was like, blow them up. What the fuck did they do? I don't care.
Yeah. We have like a order of douchebaggery, right? So you have your West Point, your VMI, your fucking Citadel. Those are your academy dudes. They suck. And then you have your OCS guys, and then dude, it's like, well, not OCS, but your ROTC guys, and then the OCS guys are like your enlisted dudes. Mm-hmm. But so there's a divide between enlisted and those guys. But even amongst themselves, they shit on each other.
Oh my god, it's crazy.
The academy dudes, they think they're better than the ROTC dudes.
We're better than you, and we know it.
All that. Bro, and then you have your ROTC guys. They hate on the OCS guys. You know what I mean? I'm like, you know what? Everybody should just go fucking be enlisted first, and then earn the right to go to OCS, because they would probably, like, what's the word I'm looking? Appreciate it a lot more. A lot of officers that are fat, out of shape, they just showed up after 4 years of partying, and they're like, all right, I'm ready to lead some shit.
Here we go.
Do anything to fucking get there. You know,
respect my authority. Yeah. I came out of the University of Northwestern. Go Lobos! Shut the fuck up.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's yeah. So yeah, to answer his question, I definitely think that we should do it in that way.
Yeah, totally agree.
It would be way better.
Yeah, my other analogy that I use for that is, like, people think that being an academy grad makes you a good leader. It's the same thing. Like, there's a nuance or a sort of an irony inside of the Army specifically, because they own the jump program. You have to be a static line jump master before you can be a military free fall jump master. That shit doesn't make any sense at all. They're completely different things. They're different systems. You use different calculations. There is literally, other than the PLF, there is nothing the same out of being a free fall jump master and a static line jump master. But somehow they tell you that being a static line jump master makes you a better free fall jump master. I will tell you, as a guy that went through precision jump master, a non-Army approved, Air Force approved course called Precision Jump Master that made me a rescue jump master. We would do stuff like open ocean JM with no wind calls, unmarked DZs. We would throw streamers in order to get our spot, like completely jump master directed stuff. It's crazy. The Army doesn't recognize it. So then late in my career, I had to go back to Fort Benning to go to static line jump master school, and then a follow on to the Army approved free fall school that we run out of DM. So I will tell you, as a graduate of no less than 4 DoD approved jump master programs, that shit does not correlate at the fuck all. I could take a normal guy off the street and be like, hey, you want to be a free fall jump master? And they'd be like, yeah, I could get him to pass that course. If he had good hands and could figure out how to do a JMPI, he could figure out how to do that course. Has nothing to do with static line jump master. Going to a military academy does not make you a good leader. It just makes me fucking hate you, because you're probably a dork.
Hopefully that answered his question.
Hopefully you fucking dork. Go do the real job. From Supra, don't have much to say. I appreciate what you guys are doing here as a mother of a son who's going to a certain route and training with SOCOM athlete, following his dad's footsteps. I appreciate it a lot. Hey, we appreciate you too.
Jason Sweet's awesome. Yeah, Jason Sweet will take care of him.
Yeah, for sure. No doubt. Shout out to Jason Sweet. He's a good dude. C. Dougie. This is a good question. Should we have mandatory military service? I'm going to start and say no. Absolutely not. The difference between, and I'll tell you what, working with these folks that are from Norway, from Israel, working with conscripts, absolutely the fuck not. Absolutely not. If we don't have a country that's willing to send its men to go to war, and we don't have an all-volunteer force, we got a lot bigger problems. Draft ain't going to fix that. Okay. I do not think that we should have mandatory military service. I think it should be, there are some positions that I think you should have to have served in the military in order to take, right? So a lot of these positions, like the Defense Foreign Services Committee, the Intelligence Committee, there's all these committees that these elected representatives sit in. I think that military service in some form or fashion, preferably in something that actually makes sense, I think that you should have to do it for that. I'm not saying president, I'm not saying vice president, I'm not saying sex state. Like, I'm saying there's specific military organizations and specific appointments that we make that you should have had to have military service behind you. For rank and file Americans, absolutely not. The strength of our military is that every day there is a strong American man and woman that care enough about the Constitution of the United States of America to support and defend against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that they will raise their right hand and they will willingly volunteer to go possibly die. I think that is the strength of our military. I think that's the strength of who we are as a country. And to take that away with conscripts or whatever, even if the conscripts stay in and they decide, okay, yeah, cool. I was directed to do this for 2 years, but I thought it was really cool and I'm going to stay in. Even if it makes our military numbers better, I still disagree with it. What do you think, Jay?
So I remember I was in Israel back in 2020 while I was over there on a deployment. And, it's pretty permissive. So we would go out because we were near Tel Aviv. and we ran into all these different people, and I ran into 3 different individuals that were AWOL. AWOL. I was like, what do you mean you're AWOL? Like, I'm working with your military. You know this, right?
Right.
They're like, yeah, care. Like they had to, this person had to fly from Brooklyn, New York to go to Israel just to be in the military. Like, it doesn't matter where you're at around the world. If you're a Jew through your mother's side, like, you have to go serve. And this individual had to go, so he went, and he was like, fuck this shit. Like, I'm out. He just left. So that's the risk you face with, like, mandatory service. One, you're going to get people that don't want to be there. So if shit hits the fan and you got to go to war and sling lead, those guys, you could, like, you don't know who's there because they want to be there and it's going to give you 110%, or who's just there because they have to be there, right? And then you have to worry about self-preservation when it comes to, you know, guys are there but they're not really there, and then AWOL and all that jazz. I just think if we keep it, you know, like an all-volunteer force, then we know who we're getting. We know the guy to our left and to our right signed up and raise his hand and say, I will defend, you know what I mean? As opposed to, why are you here? Oh, because you just have to be here, and that's the reason why you're here. Yeah, so I say we keep it all voluntary. Like, there's a power in that.
I believe it, and I would tend to agree. Jay, I'd love to know what your thoughts would be about that, because I'm in this situation with my son. The question is from Supra. What if you had a situation where your son had GI Bill from you when you already passed? Wouldn't you take advantage of that rather than enlist first? So the question here is, a father passed the GI Bill on to the son. They have that at their disposal right now. Would you encourage them to take the GI Bill first, or would you encourage them to enlist first, and why?
So I would sit down and speak with him and figure out what he wants to do, because he's probably at the point in his life where he's ready to start making some of his own decisions. Like, hey, what do you want to do? If you're trying to follow into your father's footstep, do you want to go into the military? And if he does, then let him, because the military has done wonderful things for, you know, me and some of my buddies, and I wouldn't, you know, rob my kid of that experience, right? Because the military is a good place to go get a good foundation. And if he does decide to go in, he gets a second GI Bill. If he decides to get out, then he can use, you know, both of them to get a undergrad and then a master's eventually, right? Or if he's smart, like, I got all my schooling done while I was in the military, and it was free. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I would just talk to him. I'll see what he wants to do and just listen. And then if he gets serious about it, then you know where we're at. Like, we're all about mentoring. So have him reach out. I'll be more than happy to have a conversation with you guys, or Jake, or any other guys on the panel. But I would definitely sit down and speak with him and see what he wants to do. And I understand education is important, but you can also get your education while you're in the military, building a foundation. Especially now, we're not, you know, deployed, we're not running and gunning. Like, he can easily come in and start getting those basic, you know, character traits, and start being around different people from different walks of life and learning the basic skills that the military will teach him while he's going to school at night, or while he's going to school on the weekend. Like, he can do both. Like, that'll teach him not only discipline, but responsibility and a variety of other things, as opposed to going to college and killing brain cells and chasing skirt. You know what I mean? So that would be my advice to him. It seems like the other 2 goons are about to jump on here. Jake is firing up the chat. Probably can't
figure out how to get in here. God dang, Jake. It's like, I'll tell you what, it takes a village.
I'm late 5 minutes.
Right.
Of course.
Of course you are, Jake. It's okay. We love you. So here's what I'll say, Mom. And Mama Bear, this is tough. Number one, that young man's going to have to go out on his own. Man, you could have the exact right input, and because it's coming from you, he's going to be like, nope, that's my mom, whatever. I'm going to do the opposite. I do not value a 4-year degree. I don't value brick and mortar colleges. I think that there are very few things that you actually need to go to college for. I value trade schools at this point more than I value the indoctrination machines that are the Ivy League and the top 10 colleges that we have here. It's obvious that they're subsidized and follow an ideology that is meant at least to be adversarial to what it is that we know is the morals, cultures, and values of the United States of America. At worst, they're Marxist organizations that you're going to run up $90,000 worth of debt to go to a brick and mortar place to get a piece of crap that hangs on your wall and really doesn't help you do anything. The amount of people that don't work in their degree fields and just went to a 4-year degree, I've got a lot to say about college, right? What I will say is that you can use your GI Bill for a lot of stuff. You're going to have to guide that young man towards whatever it is that he's going to do. And it's tough to look at him and go, hey, I maybe just get your degree first. Maybe it's going to be a good thing down the road. I'll tell you what, he doesn't need it to go be a warfighter. If he's training with Jason Sweet, if he's training for one of these jobs, I know a lot of very, very dumb people that have a very, very good track record on target. One of them's in the chat. What's up, Peaches? How are you doing, buddy? They're very stupid people that do just fine in the enlisted guys, right? And there are people that there could be a window that you miss here. A lot of this is opportunity and time, right? College is always going to be there. College isn't going away. You know what might go away? Kinetic warfare. You know what might go away? The career field that he wants to get into. You know what might go away? The military used as we know it today. There are too many variables here for me to give you, one solid answer. Excuse me, I got very excited. So what I will say is this is like he's always going to have that in his back pocket. He's always going to be able to use that later. He's always going to be able to go back to school, and you might not be able to tell him what he needs to hear. And that's just the reality of the moment. And sometimes it sucks being a parent. I say this as a 19-year-old and a 17-year-old right now that are living in a city, and I've got military recruiters that are approaching them and talking to them. And luckily they have a dad that knows a little bit better to see through some of the nonsense. But what I would say is like that thing's always going to be there. That opportunity to go to school is always going to be there. I don't think it's an either or. I think they can do both. So I'll just go on from there. But I'll tell you what, I don't envy your position. I say that as a parent. Everybody on this show is a parent. We've all had to deal with this stuff. And that's one of the reasons why we're here. So that you can find a safe space to talk to other parents, just as parents, and say, hey, what would you do in this situation? That's why we're here. It's not just these young kids growing up. It's not just Gen Z. It's a whole bunch of people from our peer group as well that are trying to find a way through it. That's why we want to be here and help you out. Let's see. Jared Phillips, is Jason Sweet SOCOM athlete Hell Day weekend a big enough eye opener for young men? In other words, will it open their eyes to what a selection will possibly look like? Listen, I think there's a bunch of them that are great, right? There are a bunch of folks out there that are running really, really good Hell Day events. Obviously, Jason owns the space. It's great. SOCOM athlete is a household name in this stuff. But if you look at Go Ruck, if you look at any of the Spartan races, these are all what we call reach back moments. You want to build yourself a catalog of reach back moments. So when it gets really bad, you can reach back to something and you can go, okay, I've done hard things before. I'm not going to quit on this hard thing because I was successful the last time. And now I have that reach back moment. We build those into the pipeline, like as an instructor in the pipeline and as a guy that's been really intimately involved in the, development of course curriculum and in seeing how our new pipeline works and stuff. We build those in for you. I think those are super valuable. If it's just to have contact with other actual operators, that's great. If it's just to, sometimes you don't know how hard it is to just run a mile and a half after you've been getting smoked for 2 hours. Like just doing physical conditioning, throwing a ruck on your back, running around, try to run a mile and a half after that. I think it provides you a really good reach back moment, right? I try to shy away from, Brian, somebody in the chat was like, Brian Silva had these days, a PJ Hell Day event as well. I think they're valuable when they're done by professionals and when they're done correctly. I think that they're super valuable. You see the other side of this when you start looking at some of these guys running these modern day night projects and some of these other ridiculous things where people are getting charged $18,000 to get yelled at and get called a beta male. I don't know what value there is there. I don't learn like that. Like if that guy yelled at me and was like, fuck you, I'm going to cut this tattoo off and you're not going to be here. I'll be like, wow, I wasted $18,000 of my time. I'm just going to go off and leave. I think if it's done professionally and it's done with an intent, right? I can smoke the shit out of anybody, right? One's ready. We do not have these weekend events. We've talked about it before. I can go to any pool and rent any pool out with any field that's next to it. And I guarantee you at the end of it, you will be so tired, you will throw up, you will be dehydrated, you'll be right on that line of wanting to quit all day. I guarantee I can get people to quit. For what? Why would I do that? I don't believe that helps people other than giving them that reach back moment of doing something really hard and then succeeding without dying, right? That's important for you to do. And we do the same thing to you in the pipeline. Other than that reach back moment, I don't know what value I would provide for that. So if you look at
do me a favor, Aaron, can you let in?
Oh, I got him.
Can you let Jake in?
Here we go. Jake is coming in momentarily. I know, right?
Yeah.
So if there is that reach back moment, okay, cool. Got it. I agree with that. If it's done professionally, anything outside of there, I'm like, not so freaking sure, to be quite honest with you. So hopefully that answers the question.
Is he coming in or?
I've been trying to let him in. Can you check to see if you can let him in as well? It's over on your right in people. Every time I highlight the let in button, it says waiting in lobby. It won't let me let him in. I believe it's because you started hitting record.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the same thing. It's not letting me do it.
Yeah, don't know why. There we go. CCT Peaches, what's up? Should we have a standing military? Yes, for the same reason that we talked about not having a draft. I'd say that's the same exact reason why. There we go.
Did it let you in?
It is not letting me let Jake in. I don't know why. Can you text him and just tell him leave and then come in? I've hit admit to him like 9 times. I don't know why it's not letting him in, but maybe it doesn't get. Oh man, it'd be really interesting to find out that we can't admit people in the middle of a live stream.
Oh shit!
I don't believe so. I believe you can let them in during a recording because I think I've done it before, but we'll go from there. So we'll keep addressing these questions over here, and we'll keep an eye out for Jake. Boomer Jake, I love it. You know, it takes a nation to raise a Jake, and I've said it multiple times. Let's go. C. Dougie, you clarified your questions from earlier. Should we have mandatory military education, like some military prep academy style education for kids in high school? We have ROTC. We have, you can go check out Green Beret Chronicles. You can check out Jake's page, and you can check out onesready.com. We already have that. So I don't think we need it any more than we already do. I don't see a need in there for anything. And this letting Jake thing in is really distracting me. I can't ignore him either, which is a weird thing.
Let me Google this shit.
Do it. Figure it out. We'll figure that out real time. Peaches trying to get me all spun up. So PJs being left out of the USAFA uniform deserve to be on there or not. So I don't know if you guys are tracking this as more of a, what's it called? Like a current event sort of thing. So here's the deal. The Air Force, so all of the service academies make different uniforms. They do it every year. Like the Army will have their throwback WW2 uniform. They'll have all kinds of other uniforms. So the Air Force does it too. They've done it last year. Like they've done this before, right? Like they've had these special uniforms before. Here's the problem, and here's the kerfluffle. They called it an AFSOC uniform and only put 3 of the career fields on there. They were like STO, Combat Controller, and Special Reconnaissance. They were like, yeah, these 3 are the only 3 flashes that we're going to put on this uniform. Now, they did put the green feet and the lightning bolt, which is a common U.S. AF special warfare or special tactics symbol, right? The green feet are typically the pararescuemen. The lightning bolt are the combat controllers. The SR guys are not on there because they're so sneaky that we don't know what they do. So but all of the imagery on this thing, you know, is this huge dagger, and it said first there. And usually it's first there that others may live. Let's see if we can do it here. I could not let him in. I don't know what the deal is. We might have to kick him out and restart. Yeah, trying to let Jake in right now.
We might have to. Oh.
Gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. We got hold on. You gotta go out. You got a big echo. You're gonna have to go to the waiting room and turn your echo cancellation on before you come in.
How is that?
That's better. Thank goodness.
Okay.
The myth.
I had a little speaker on. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Oh, thank goodness he's here. The man, the myth, the legend, Jake Zwig. We're midstream. We're answering some questions here, so you just orient as we go. We're talking about the Air Force Academy's dumb uniforms, where they decided that PJs weren't a part of AFSOC. So here's the deal, man. Basically what they did is they had this uniform, and it just has all the combat control imagery everywhere. Huge on the shirts that they put out for it right now on the Air Force Academy. They got a big old combat control flash. They've got the flash for the STOs. They've got the flash for SR. You look everywhere, and you're like, oh, that's cool. They completely ignored the fact that pararescuemen work inside of AFSOC. Now, I will say they also ignored TAC-P. TAC-P is infinitesimally smaller. Pararescuemen and combat controllers inside of AFSOC. Pararescuemen work at every single unit in AFSOC that combat controllers do. Pararescuemen have been underneath AFSOC as their sole command as late as the 90s, late 2000s, or early 2000s. The preponderance of their forces actually work in the Guard and Reserve, but there are people that work in ACC and AFSOC. The messaging from the 2-4 SAL PA, what's up, Savannah? You really fucked this one up. The messaging from the 2-4 SAL and the AFSOC PA is that, well, we only included the career fields that work in here exclusively on the uniform. Let me tell you why that's fucking horseshit. Because right now, Peaches command is a chief. He's an E9. He's not working in AFSOC. He's working for another wing. There are hundreds of positions that combat controllers work outside of AFSOC. The problem with me is that they know this. Okay? Everybody knows that pararescuemen work in AFSOC. I have friends that died wearing an AFSOC patch. It just happened. August 6th was Extortion 17. There were 2 PJs on that flight that went down that were working at the Tier 1 unit alongside their controller brother inside of that flight. And one of the Harvell brothers died. John Brown and Dan Zerbe were the other were the two pararescuemen that were on that. That's why the community is upset, is because the messaging from AFSOC PA, the messaging from the you can go to Air Force football right now, and it's like, here are the AFSOC career fields on Air Force Falcons. And it lists straight up STO, combat control, special reconnaissance. And that's it. So the whole PJ community has been like, hey guys, can't help but notice that we played the biggest roles in some of the biggest events that you guys claim over the past 20 years. Like, who was the first person to touch Captain Phillips? That was a combined joint operations between some SEALs and some Air Force special operations guy. You know who was the first person to touch Captain Phillips? Was a pararescueman. Wasn't a combat controller. Do you know how many people were on the ground during the exfil of HKIA? I would bet that there were more PJs than there were combat controllers.
Let me ask you this, Aaron. Do you think it's because you guys don't have any officers?
I think it's because we don't have enough high-ranking officers. The Crows haven't gotten to a part, and the Crows are splitting their time between a couple of other things. We didn't have officers until 2001, which means we haven't grown a star yet. Combat controllers have a star. There is a weird thing inside of ST specifically where there is this rivalry between, we call it living in a red hat world. We typically refer to combat controllers as red hats, which is funny because we're both red hats. We're just, maroon. Hello, Ben.
Welcome. Hey, what's up? How's it going?
What's up, brother? God damn. Hey, man, that sun's out, them guns are out. This guy
sun's out, guns out, baby. I got the delay on. I listened to you guys live, but I was trying to do this. Jake, what's up, man?
Bro, I don't want to hear nothing. It's hard to compete, okay? We got 3 normal people on here, and then we got Captain America, okay? I don't want to hear nothing.
I don't know about all that.
Hey, speak for yourself, Jake. I consider myself Falcon, all right? So.
That's right.
Nice.
Hey, so Aaron and I have been in for about an hour and 34 minutes. So if you want to wrap it up, Aaron, then we'll go straight to Jake. We'll talk Kyle Mullins because I want some updates on that because I know he crushed it on his channel, and then we'll go from there.
So I'll get out of the way. But basically, the hullabaloo is this: is like, hey, we're like, hey, leave it. You can say something without saying it. The fact that they left them off, the fact that they left the pararescue community. I mean, it's just a flash. All you had to do is throw the flag, or maybe put that others may live down the other side of the pants. If you're going to put first there and say it's an AFSOC uniform, which is what they said, they included 3 out of the 5 ground maneuver elements. If you're trying to recruit, I would say that you would include your biggest recruiting tool, because from the outside people looking in, people are like, oh yeah, PJs, they're fucking, that's Air Force soft. To have that, and I heard it come out of this person's mouth. They said, well, PJs really they're kind of like misrepresenting themselves at soft because they don't work in AFSOC the whole time, so they're not even really operators. Like, that was actually the thing.
That's so crazy.
It's retarded. Like, you guys aren't even in the Air Force, and you're like, that's not right. That's anytime that I've wanted a special operator from the Air Force, I'm like, oh yeah, pararescueman and combat control, they're synonymous with the thing. So even like the fact that you're marketing something and the general public's response to your marketing is, wait a second, that doesn't make sense. And then you get mad at the people and you're like, well, they're not even technically whatever. Do you think that's a good marketing campaign? If you have to get into a fight every time you put something out, do you think that you've done a good job or are you doing a bad job?
Hey,
it's probably a bad job.
Aaron, you need to send them some Budweiser beer with that lady on it.
I'm going to send them. Dylan Mulvaney is a dude. I'm going to send them some Budweiser beer that is old and skunky, and I hope they freaking hate it because those dorks do not know what they're talking about. And then they get called out on it, and they have the audacity to be like, well, actually, they're the only ones that work in AFSOC exclusively. And the second that you point out, you're like, oh, really? That's weird. You know what? SEAC, the Senior Enlisted Advisor to the Joint Chiefs of Staff, number 4 was Chief Master Sergeant Ramon Colon Lopez. SEAC was actually his rank.
Lopez.
Guess what? He wasn't working in AFSOC. Are you telling me that guy's not an operator? You're telling me he's not? Oh, okay. So how about Peaches? How about Jared Petrus? E9, I think he's like a group chief, whatever. He doesn't work for AFSOC. That's weird. So you're telling me that controllers don't work exclusively in AFSOC? And oh, by the way, those guys aren't operators by your own logic? That's a weird message to put out when your recruiting is through the floor because you just took away dive school for those 2 career fields. So again, PAO sucks. Air Force PAO is really super bad. And Savannah, you and I have an issue. And Fat Tony, you and I have an issue. And Air Force Falcons, we all have an issue. Because unfortunately, I've got a couple of silver bracelets here with some names on it that you guys said weren't part of AFSOC and don't deserve representation. That's where I have an issue.
That's a legit issue, Aaron. I will call the football coach I know on the Air Force Academy staff, and I'll ask him a question.
Tell him I said eat a bag of dicks.
I'm just going to tell him, like when are those uniforms coming out? For what game?
Now, they're, I'd have to look.
It's probably not, it's not one of the early games, because
It is.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? It's the opening game?
I don't know if it's the opening. Let me look. You go ahead. I'll find the answer.
Yeah, because there's no way you can fix it now. If it's one of the middle season games, you can get
it's
that
already
fixed.
It's already done. Like, and that's the thing that we're looking at here. And the other thing that kind of like really makes me upset about this is that the levels of approval, just from inception until fielding of this post where it says this is what we're going to do, hundreds of people are getting paid by the government to fuck this up by the numbers. Some idiot with an Instagram account should not be able to own you in your comment section because you paid for this. It reminds me of the Army now suing The Rock to get their 11 million back. Like, you guys went through this whole a series of deliberate decisions was made by people that we consider the subject matter experts. And at some point they were like, fuck PJs, fuck those guys that died in AFSOC. They don't all work in AFSOC anyway. This uniform is for combat controllers. I mean, if you want to say that, that's fine, but just put the press release out and say, hey, this is the combat controller uniform. We're honoring John Chapman. John Chapman, by the way, is also Medal of Honor recipient. He's one of the exemplars. It was the first time an Air Force Special Tactics Airman was honored at the Air Force Academy to be one of their exemplars. So that makes sense to me. Be like, it's the first time we're honoring John Chapman. We're going to put combat controllers all over. You know what the PJ community would have done? Holy fuck yeah, that guy's a fucking lion and he's a badass. When do we get a PJ one? Because we got the guys, but we're going to support the shit out of the John Chapman uniform because that shit fucks. But that's not what you did. You said, here are the AFSOC ground operators. And we're like, oh, can't help but notice you left out one of the most decorated career fields in the military because of your little fucking marketing plan. It's just incompetence at the highest level.
Aaron's on fire.
Yeah, it's because I got a hard out in 30 minutes. I'm trying to.
All right, let's blow this shit up, Jake. Let's go. Let's blow it up.
Yeah, I'm out.
So Captain Gary, I caught his interview with Sean Ryan, right?
Yep.
And he is doing something that Jake knows that shouldn't be taking place, which is talking about the Navy while you're still in. So why don't you fill us in, Jake, as far as what's going on with Captain Gary and Kyle Mullins and that whole debacle?
Okay, so here's the deal. I'm just going to shoot as straight as I can shoot because that's all I really do anyway. But so Brad Geary was in class 234, the big deal. My buddy was in that class. Okay, Travis Lively is one of my best friends. He loves Brad Geary. Said Brad Geary salted the earth. Okay, if you watch that Sean Ryan interview, there's a couple points in there that I just said, I'm never going to armchair quarterback nobody, okay? But Extortion 17, I'm just going to tell you, and when I was in the teams, I watched guys get off of helicopters because there was too many guys on one helicopter. And the Vietnam dudes would be like, no, 6 SEALs to a helicopter because helicopters crash all the time, okay? And he kind of nonchalantly played that off and just said, well, that's what we did, right? But how about the fact that they got hit with the SA-7? Wasn't an RPG. How about the fact they knew all that stuff? So anyway, he the commander. Commander's intent. He got ultimate responsibility. I'm going to ask Ben a question because I know Ben's got some feedback on this also. So anyway, long story short, he went on Sean Ryan to put the spin on it, which doesn't make any sense. His career is already over. It's done. It's cooked. It's lambasted. He's done. So now he's out talking, right? He's talking about the community. He's talking about what happened. He's talking about, and this is the thing that I had the biggest problem with. He's talking about all the emails he sent to get more medical support during a national emergency lockdown for COVID. Okay? Now, being a special operations guy and being a guy that's going to find a way to win, the last thing I'm going to do is just say, oh, these recent Hell Week graduates are not going to have 24-hour around-the-clock care because they didn't give me any corpsmen. Okay? At the worst, I would have called down to the SEAL teams and said, hey, I need every medic you have. I need 10 medics for 2 days to do post-Hell Week evaluations every 45 minutes. And you would have got him, okay? But he did none of that. He did none of the stuff that we are known for doing. And now he's out here crying about his milk that's been spilled because they're talking about court-martialing him now. So he's got a board of inquiry coming up, Okay. Now, the question I'm going to say is, he was the commanding officer. At the end of the day, he's ultimately responsible 100% for everything that happens in his command. Now, we have a commanding officer on here. Ben, how do you feel about being a commanding officer of MARSOC and something that everybody's going to say was outside of your control? But I always argue your control is ultimate because you drive the culture. How do you feel about it?
Wait, restate the question one more time. I was screwing off for a minute. Tell me one more time.
You're screwing off.
I know it was screwing off.
This is how time more time.
Listen, no, it's all right, Ben. So listen, Brad Geary is trying to get out of the fact that he's ultimately responsible for Kyle Mullen's death. And he's trying to sidestep it, saying he asked for a bunch of help, but no one would give him any medical help. Meaning him as the commanding officer, they wouldn't supply him with more corpsmen during a national medical emergency.
All right, so I'll tell you, I'll give you a little vignette, little story, right? You know, and this will drive you into what I think about it. So this is controversial, terrible story, but we had a number of years ago in Afghanistan, one of our bases get attacked. You guys are probably all familiar with this. They broke through about a squad level or so of Taliban, shot everything up, destroyed aircraft, like crazy stuff, right? The CO was killed in the firefight. Squadron commander was killed. XO was in a gunfight. Like, they lost pilots. I mean, these guys basically did stormtroop tactics. They found a weak spot, breached it, got through, brought heavy weaponry with them, and they went to town. And so eventually, they killed them all, repulsed it. But as you go through the investigation, what you'll see, there are causal factors and contributing factors, okay? The commanding general had requested to several levels higher generals, we need more base security. We need this. We need hardened. We need HESCO barriers. All these things. They said, we can at this time. We can at this time. For months, they identified these weaknesses. We can at this time. We can at this time. Ultimately, what they said is at that level, there's a different expectation of resourcefulness and leadership and planning and the ability to counter these weaknesses. And so they held him accountable, fired him. I want to say that it impacted his retirement, all these things, and I don't want to go overboard because I don't have the facts in front of me. It's a few years ago, last time I studied this case. But very, very harsh, coming down from the Commandant of the Marine Corps himself, and very cold, black and white, where you could feel for the guy. I read the whole investigation because, I was a commanding officer at the time, and I wanted to see, what level of expectation that the Corps has in the worst, highest, most in extremis environments. And that was it. Everything you do or fail to do in command, it's on you. It's on you. And I will tell you this too, that's one of the reasons why, you bear a big burden. Like, we joked before, you were asking, how do you bear the burden? Like I said, my memory doesn't work. That's the way I bear the burden. But guys die, people we kill, people we target, people that don't make it, it's everything's on you. And so with that being said, I can't judge the guy because I wasn't in his shoes. But that's the expectation, that's why that bullshit with the Secret Service person, the friggin' lady who was like, oh, I didn't do anything. No, you fucking did. It's your fault. That happened. I mean, I'm not gonna say causal factor your fault. Accountability wise though, your fault. Shit that was screwed up in my unit, on me, mea culpa. Things that didn't get done, things that did get done, it's everybody else's, they get the credit for it. But still accountability, pin the tail on the donkey right here, man. So
and I think it's important that they hear what you said because 99% of America hasn't served in the military.
Right.
They don't understand what it looks like when you're the commanding officer in a combat zone. And look, the enemy gets a shot. They get a call and everything. And so sometimes you got to do stuff to win that you ain't got no HESCO barriers. You better figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay. You don't have enough base security. You better figure it out. Because I know this, the CO and the XO paid with their lives. That's the result of failure in the military, okay? In this same case we're talking about, Kyle Mullins, all right, died. And if you ask me, was he responsible for his own death? Absolutely. At the end of the day, your life is your responsibility, okay? But everybody's trying to say that he was on all these PEDs, all this other stuff. Absolutely, he 100% was the drug man in the class. I verified that with 5 different people. Absolutely, his car was the staging location for all the PEDs. Absolutely, his heart was twice the normal size. That means he had been using PEDs all the way through his Yale football career. Okay, it didn't happen in the 3 or 4 months that he was at Buds or in the pipeline. It's a long-term drug use. His mom has admitted that he was using PEDs. She was trying to get him off of it. At the end of the day, the commanding officer is ultimately responsible because he did not have a 24-hour fire watch on his guys. And there's a lot of fabrication going on right now about the actual details. Oh, like Geary said, he walked to 618. My guy said they wheeled him over there with an oxygen bottle. Okay. And so there's stuff being said, but here is my point with all of it. I don't know if Jay's still with us.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay, so my big point for everybody to understand, though, is at the end of the day, we lost a sailor in training, okay? And this is something we talked about before. Everybody is hitting me up because no one realized we lost, in the last 5 years, we lost 198 people in naval aviation in the pipeline. 198 in 5 years. We've lost now, I think it's 13 guys in SEAL training over the last 70 years.
Wow.
I'll
say something with the PEDs and all that stuff too, just jumping in specifically on that. We used to have some big hardcore discussions on this stuff, especially when I was a CO, okay? And so the 4 of you will get this. The broader audience, you may or may not. Point, period, paragraph, they're not allowed, okay? None of the stuff's allowed. I mean, I'm talking, there's a whole list from SOCOM of things you can't take. I mean, we're talking all the way down to pre-workout, everything else like that. Now, for certain high-level endurance events, you don't want any of this shit in your system because it will break you down and you'll be in trouble, Now, there are others, though, that are under medical supervision that can help you, too, that certain units will use under supervision for healing and for high performance. The argument I used to get into with some of the guys, honestly, just because I try to break it down and have a discussion, they're like, all right, so I'm going down there to fight. I'm going down range. I can do everything in my job. Why can't I just do it better by using this? Even if I have a prescription, stuff like that. Prescription usually where you would be able to, do some things. But my argument was this. If I've got you on the gun, I've got you in a sensitive ambush, okay? Let's say we're in a Trojan horse scenario. I hate to say this tactic, but like a Washington, D.C. sniper tactic, and it doesn't really palatable that well. But I'm saying you're friggin' in a car, and you're taking people out. It's the only way we can get you in there. We're in some type of close target reconnaissance type, mission set. The sensitivity that you have, your ability to keep your blood pressure down and keep your cool, may mean all of our lives. Steroids, all that crap, a lot of PEDs are known to amp you up. I don't need you to be the world's strongest man. Some of my deadliest people were skinny, friggin' nasty dudes who just were great snipers or great operators. And they were cunning, and they were smart, and they were badass. Now, there are other dudes that are big Vikings that could, lay waste to everybody. But that's what I'm saying is that, that's why, you see a lot of these guys that get big and strong and jacked. And like Jay talked about it, I think it was maybe one of your posts maybe. To be a great Green Beret, you don't need to be big and jacked. I'm big and pretty right now because I lift weights all the time. Before, I was just friggin', I'm saying? I'm like, that's it. I'm just, lifting weights. I'm trying to get an aesthetic. But before, it was like just endurance athlete, totally focused on combat fitness, and that's it. So don't take this away like, oh, that's what you got to be. Because at the end of the day, your ability to keep your cool in high pressure, life-threatening situations where you taste alkaline taste in your mouth because you're fucking about to die or close, there's a good chance that, it's maybe you and a small team with a whole shitload of them, and if you can't keep your cool, you will die because you're not going to win that fight. Little stuff like that until you get support. And I would just argue saying that I don't want some big juice head getting my guys into a fight that they can't win and getting their heads cut off and dragged through the street. Urban warfare is nasty. Jungle warfare is nasty when you're outnumbered. All of it's nasty. So, I would just say to anybody who's, thinking like I got to be the big hairy chested frogman or whatever, and I got to, show up and be this and that. No one gives a shit when you're down there. The 17-year-old skinny guy with the AK, he could waste you just as fast as the big strong guy. So get yourself in the best combat fitness you can. Know your shit. Study your pubs. Some of these really smart guys we're making fun of. I heard you guys earlier talking about academy guys, stuff like that, Some of these smartest motherfuckers, listen to me, who have memorized the pub and know their geometry of fires, you're going to fucking want that little dorky dude with you who's like, no, actually do this.
Pass on that dork. That's where you're wrong. Fuck that guy.
Wait a minute, Ben. Wait a minute.
You can drop that weapon at danger close right here, and we're going to be okay because he knows the pub or he knows how to do overhead fires with the machine guns.
He's not.
You're going to be pretty happy.
That. Hey, watch this.
You're going to be happy.
I am not a JTAC. I need help. You know how many times that's worked?
Support.
Millions.
Hey,
you're talking about the coordination between two college graduates, motherfucker. I'm an enlisted guy. All I need is a fucking weapon.
Hang on, Ben. Let me say this. Having just worked with Aaron. Oh, no. Let me say this. Having just watched Aaron work last
He's a smart, dorky guy. Don't let him fool you.
100%. The resident fucking nerd ass doctor.
Yeah, dude.
Sitting over there trying to perpetrate some kind of caveman dragging his knuckles.
Well, you and me up. Listen, the two of us are on the top, right? The fucking two cavemen. They got coming in late. It's hilarious.
Yeah. Don't
Aaron,
let him.
You want to hit the chat real quick?
I love it. Yeah. I just want to say thanks, man. We got a super question, the super freaking thingy. I don't even know what to call it. It's a question from John Pierre. So John Pierre, this is a great question. Also, I'm going to excuse myself out of this one. I have a heart out. I'm going to go take care of my mental health. Being transparent with you, I got an appointment with a doc. I'm going to go talk to that guy. But in order for me to make it on time, I got to leave after this question. So John, thank you so much for putting this out there. We really do appreciate you. Anybody else in the chat, if you want to throw yourself a super like in there, you'll get your question answered next. Mason Young is going to ask a question to Ben about why it is that he only talks to middle-aged women, hitting him up on the comments on IG. It's because this man's square-jawed. I'll let him answer that himself.
That's fucked up. That's fucked up right there.
It is. You talk to Mason about that, you'll have to do it after I'm gone, sir. So, hey, John, here's a question I've been contemplating for a while. Do you guys think that the force as a whole is due for a complete rank restructure? It reeks of a period and a social dynamics that we've long since left behind. John, that is a fantastic question because we based the office.
You want to hit it again for? You want to hit it again for Jake?
I got you, Jake. Here's the question at hand from John Pierre in the chat. Here's a question I've been contemplating for a while. Do you guys think the force as a whole is due for a complete rank restructure? It reeks of a period and social dynamic that we've long since left behind. With that, I'm going to excuse myself. You guys got it. Thanks for allowing me to be on here and taking up your time. Thanks for everybody in the chat. Just a quick analytic look. We've never had 57 people in the chat before. This is fantastic. This is the biggest that we've ever been. I want to say thank you very much. We appreciate you. You guys are going to crush it for me. I'm signing off. I'll be watching on my way down to this appointment.
Hey,
got
Aaron,
love in my heart for y'all.
Don't let that doc put a finger in your butt. All right.
It happens every time. He's like, "Don't worry, this is natural." I'm like, "That's you," and he's like, "I know, but it's totally natural. It's weird." All right, fellas, I'm out.
See you, brother. Take care.
We'll talk to you later.
All right, wait. What are we talking about?
Start off with
No, I got it. So
yeah, good.
Okay.
Thanks,
here's what I'm gonna say, and I'm just gonna put this in age context. Okay. A general in the United States military or a flag-ranked officer is normally at about the 24-year mark. So for the very first generals that we got rolling out that are my age range, they're 52 years old. Okay? So they get into general status about, anywhere from 24 to 26 years. Okay? So even at the base level of generals, you're already talking about a 50-year-old man. I am outdated right now currently by 30 years. Now, one of the things that I've thought about having mentored, let's just call it 6 incredible officers in the military. Incredible. Not average. I'm talking about incredible. We have a captain that's a captain at 18 years in the Navy right now. Submarine captain, okay? If they could have spot promoted him 2 or 3 times earlier, he got spot promoted 4 times early. Okay, all the way from 02 up. That dude could be an admiral right now, and he would still be in his 30s. However, the only time we've seen that isn't during the time of war. And we got to go back to the Civil War, World War II. We had a couple young generals. The generals are always going to be old, and the people running the military are always going to be ancient. There's never a time when they're going to be, so to speak, in the 30 to 40 range. It's not how the military works. Now, Do I think we could overhaul the military and make a huge impact by doing that? Yes, I do. Go ahead,
Yeah,
Ben.
I mean, the only thing I would say, I agree with everything Jake said, spot on. I just think that, you really want someone that has a lot of wisdom and experience and decision-making ability. They have political clout and connections because you're wielding a tremendous amount of power. I mean, I'll put it in perspective. The PACOM admiral, the PACOM commander, Pacific Command, they liken that to a Roman proconsul. Okay, one of the most powerful people, if not the most powerful person in the world. Okay, presidents, yes. Heads of state, yes, they can fire them. This person commands the most powerful weaponry in the world. And if they're nuts, right, we have a real problem. So it takes a lot of vetting. You want someone who's very, very of sound mind, calm, they're methodical, they're not going to make crazy decisions. And they've had years to observe them. This is a big, important thing. I mean, I can't tell you how many times that, let's say we'd be downrange and everyone, including me, would be like, yeah, go, 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 we should do this. But luckily I had a great commander over me, whenever I was deployed, who would exercise something called tactical patience, right? And they would always say, let's not rush to failure. Not surprising, this person ended up, being a 3-star general and commanded one of the most powerful organizations in the Marine Corps. And, just the level of thought and the sobriety with which they took their duties, you want that in somebody, and you get somebody younger, and I'm just sorry, the experience isn't there, the wisdom isn't always there, and yes, they may be amazing tactically, even strategically too, as well. But, that wisdom comes with a lot of experience, and I think also age will temper you. It will temper you in a lot of ways. When you make decisions that are irreversible, you're making decisions with people's lives, blood and treasure of our nation. They're irreversible sometimes. You set something in motion, it had better be the right course of action. Otherwise, we really pay a price that's very hard to reverse and come back from. So, I mean, I think it's good to modernize. I think it's good maybe to make everything a little younger, too. But some of those strategic command positions, I'm not really for that always. I mean, I think you got to have the same wisdom, forethought, process, all those things involved.
Now, do you guys think we should do the same thing to some of the political arenas within our country, like senators, congressmen? Like, should we have like an age limit in your opinions?
I would say this, maybe not an age limit, but I do think that everybody needs a term limit. Like, I think every spot in government at this point has become so catastrophically, let's say, bedridden, okay, that I think a term limit would help this country do what congressmen and senators are supposed to do, which is serve the people. Because right now, I think most of them are serving themselves.
Yeah, I mean,
Gotcha.
I think the American people see capability, right? So, I mean, as you know, obviously we have science, a lot of, longevity, things like that, a lot of breakthroughs going on where people can perform better and better as they get older. But, for this last case where, a candidate's having a hard time even debating, I mean, that's time to take a knee, really. So, I mean, I think that was the right move overall. Not even talking about the politics of it and how it happened, but yeah, I mean, that I think people will self-select through their performance and what they can do. What I don't agree with is hiding it. I think hiding it, that's wrong for the American people. The ultimate fitness test obviously is being able to step in front of the American people and speak. Jake's probably on something there for sure with the term limits and all those things like that. The only thing I wonder about sometimes is how much campaigning is done, and because of the election cycle, especially for Congress, how it's perpetual campaigning, and maybe at the same time maybe that could be a good thing as well too, because you're constantly checking in with your constituents. They're constantly getting a chance to vote you off the island if you're not doing the job. If they don't like what you're doing, you didn't answer their call, and you're just off in DC doing your thing. So again, that's not my complete focus, and just offering a quick opinion on that.
Gotcha. All right, so we'll go to this last question. $5. Mason Young wants to know, Ben, why are the only comments on your IG posts from middle-aged women?
I don't know, brother. I don't know. Did you comment on there? I get back if you commented. I don't know, man.
Oh, shit.
Mason, that's a good question.
Hey, look. Hey, Jay, let me tell you something. There's 3 of us on this channel, right? And then there's Ben Pappas. And so I'm gonna throw Ben under the bus right now because I had a long conversation with him earlier. You know what he called me about, Jay? He had an 8-hour photo shoot. And he was talking to me about how hot it was under the cameras, under the lights, and how many pictures he had to take. And get this, he had to change his clothes 3 times in the photo shoot.
Hey, that shit's hard. That's hard.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's hard. It's hard.
Mason, I don't know, man. Mason, I don't know. Maybe we got to get the demographic to open up a little more. That's currently what's going on. You've got my Instagram, brother. That's what's happening. But if you shout me out over there, I'll make sure I look for you. I just that's I guess who's getting my attention right now for a variety of reasons.
Well, this will roll us right into this one, right? Performing under pressure. So when it comes to the jobs that we used to in the military, they're all high stress, high pressured environment. What techniques do you guys use to manage stress in high pressure situation, and how can the audience use those same techniques to, negotiate certain situations that they might find themselves in?
I'll jump in on this really fast. I mean, we've all had some really high pressure things going on, but recently I've had a few times where I've had to reach back into, using the things I teach. Obviously, I think the biggest thing, number one thing that's going to set you up for success always, and I'm not the best at this, so what I'm telling you, I need to teach myself. I'm like coaching myself, but you got to protect your sleep as much as you can. Protect your sleep. Please try to get between 6 to 8 hours. Some people will say 7 to 9 hours. But, if you're only getting 5, that's okay too. But, and again, like I'm telling you, I'm not perfect on this. I'm teaching the things I need to know, or I'm talking about it. But alcohol is a depressant, it's going to mess with you. So if you're not sleeping, you're drinking a lot, using that as a coping mechanism to drink. It might work initially, make you have a little bit of relief, right? But then the next day, you're going to not feel switched on. You're going to feel more pressure, not feel that great. So sleep, number 1. Number 2 is, again, your mental focus. What do you choose to focus on in the moment? I'm telling you this because if you're looking at the cliff, so to speak, okay, and the negative thing that can happen, you're focusing on that, and all you're doing is creating more fear for yourself. You're creating this meaning that this is loss. I can't come back from this. Trust me when I say I've had some interesting times, even recently, okay, where I've had to coach myself and bring myself out of some very, very high stress situations. But you find this mental focus. Let's say you don't have enough money right now, okay? You're really hurting right now, and you can't pay your bills, things like that. If you keep on focusing what you don't have, focusing on that, all right, you're going to create more fear for yourself. Instead, you have to acknowledge that this is the problem, right? I'm going to tell myself the truth. Now I'm going to deal with it. I'll make a plan to deal with it. Go get a job. Go make money. Start a little business. Do what you got to do. Start a service, whatever it is. Focus on what you want, not what you don't want. You'll create less fear. You'll actually start creating success momentum and building up momentum where you will get success, okay? That'll lower your stress. You start getting some results. You start growing a little bit, making things happen. Stress level starts coming down. You inspire yourself in that way by the meaning that you give to the things you decide to focus on in that event. Trust me, it takes willpower, it'll take discipline, okay? The next thing is your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? If you're sitting there asking yourself questions like, why am I such a dumbass? How much time do I have left? This is the end. What's going to happen next? Instead of asking yourself, okay, what is the opportunity in this situation? How can I grow from this? What can I learn from this? Who can I reach out to that can help me right now? And really, really getting hardwired focused on this problem, okay? Then you're going to create more and more stress. So you got to lower the stress, again, through your mental focus, the self-talk. And one of the quickest ways to get out of any type of stress, go do something physical. Go for a walk, go for a bike, break a sweat, do push-ups till your arms fall off, okay? Go do something that you like to do that's physical, but you got to get out. And the last thing, you got to breathe. You got to practice breathing. I just did work earlier with a client. We did a deep breathing session in one of my coaching sessions, and this will take you to a new place. I encourage you to look at there's a thing called Tumo breathing from these Tibetan monks, fire breathing. Wim Hof made it really, really famous, okay? But if you just go to Wim Hof method, take a look at some of the things he has going on. You're doing these deep breathing sets of 40 with breath holds afterwards. This will get you high as a kite. I'm telling you, I've done this with executives. I've done it with veterans. I've done it with addicts. Okay, I've done all, and it works across the board because what happens is that this attaches, the oxygen attaches to your opioid receptors in your brain, giving you that euphoric high that a drug will give you. So it's stimulating the opioid receptors. Then you feel good. You go into a trance. Next thing you know, you're like, I'm feeling pretty good, man. Stress isn't so bad like I thought it was. Okay, so these are all things you can do that I do that help you out. But again, number one thing is you want to stay ahead of it, protect your sleep, and have a good physical fitness regimen.
Jake?
So I got two different types of stress. I got active stress, right? Like getting shot at, athletics. That stress is controlled by preparation. Okay, that stress is controlled by my preparation to be where I'm supposed to be. Okay, just like Ben said, a lot of times there's going to be a lot of craziness going on in that smoke, and you got to control what you can control and get to the next ridgeline, right? But in life, like everyday stress, I tell everybody, there are days that are bad, okay? And the way I do it is I look at what's the next thing I got to do, okay? I got to get 85 vans on the road today, and I only have 65 vans, okay? I need to find 66. Let me go find one van. And then I find one van. And then I find two vans. And then before I know it, now I'm at 73 vans and I only need, 12 vans left, right? And so I tell everybody, if you're going to control stress in your environment, you've got to be able to push the ball a little bit forward. The worst thing you can do is, like Ben said, is get into negative pity party thought in your head and say, woe is me, and sit down. You have to move when you're under stress, because if you sit down, nothing's going to get done, and it's only going to get worse.
Amen.
That's actually really good advice, Jake. I appreciate it, which that'll lead us into our first story, which this individual was definitely under stress because they showed it and they paid the price, right? So Navy Lieutenant Commander James Dickerson was court-martialed after posting a TikTok video in uniform, lip-singing to profane parody of Let It Go and making obscene gestures. So the commander was initially charged with conduct of unbecoming an officer. All right. Dickerson was ultimately found not guilty. The case highlights the complexity of social media used by military personnel. Right. So what are you guys' thoughts on this? Right. Because now it seems to be the thing that we do in the military. Like you go on TikTok, you find YouTube, like people are in uniform just acting a fool. While I was in, that shit never crossed my mind.
Right.
Like it looks like this is a new generation and it's leading to a lot of people getting in trouble. Right. So what are you guys' thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I think not everybody crosses the line, by doing something like that. I know there are tons of accounts. There's like one Marine who's got probably 2 million followers. He's a fitness dude. You've seen him doing the pull-ups. It's insane. I mean, honestly, He does like the crazy stuff he does, and he's a credit to the Corps, right? They're probably like all day long to keep doing that. He's one of those dudes you see who's in the units that's just, unbelievable, and I'm happy he's doing it. That's a credit to the Corps to what we do. There's some of them that are comedians that are really funny and tell about a lot of the stuff that's going on, behind the scenes, but without ever not pushing it so far that they get in trouble. I think they have such good social media training today that the guys and girls know, the service members know when they're about to, cross over the line. They tell them, you can do this, you can't do that. You can do this, you can't do that. I mean, obviously political stuff they got to be very, very careful with as well, too. Attending rallies. I don't know if they're doing it. I don't really pay attention, but I mean, I think they'll be very careful with that. But I think it can be a real benefit because it's just free marketing. It's guerrilla marketing for the services, and so someone who's out there is like, you know what? There's a place for some goofball like me. This guy's hilarious, and I could join the military. It's not all going to be crazy gunnery sergeant and drill instructors. Everyone always asked me in the Marines before, let's say before social media, is it always crazy? Is everyone always screaming at everyone? Do you just scream at people? I'm like, where are you getting this from? Like, honestly, the Marine Corps is like one of the funnest places in the world. Like, they have the best dudes in there, best people, period. I'm one of the reasons I joined, because I got to work with everybody, and I thought it was going to be really serious. And they are serious, and they're tough when they're working. But hilarious, just great people, really good people. They'll have your back through anything, you know? And so if you can see those people that are also very funny, I think recruitment will go up, you know? So I think they have to be able to know what the line is, though, too. Certain stuff, especially if you're starting to attack the command or say stuff, you know, you're not going to win. They're going to blast you every time. But I think it's a good thing. I think it's a good thing for the military, because you have society, again, like we talked about a couple episodes ago, has to also be a reflection of an all-volunteer force, right? I mean, this is Samuel Huntington, you know, the whole thing, citizen soldiers, all that stuff like that. For a democracy and for an all-volunteer force, you know, we can't be this, even though we are really closed off in a lot of ways, we still have to be also a reflection of the society we represent. And so that way, you're going to keep having people wanting to join the all-volunteer force for as many sacrifices as they have to make. So that's just my opinion.
Jake?
So, Jay, I'm just going to say this. When I was in the military, conduct unbecoming an officer was my number one concern. Okay? I'm just going to say it. Like every weekend, I was conduct unbecoming. Okay? So here's what I'm going to say. If I had recorded it and put it out online, I would have got banged on conduct unbecoming, right? So what I'm going to say is I thought his behavior was incredibly dumb. Did I think it needed to be court-martialable? No. Okay? Did I think he's probably going to have a command conversation? Absolutely, right? Was it a teaching moment in my opinion? Yes. However, he's a senior 04, I believe 18 years in the military, getting ready to retire. Now, did he talk disparagingly about anybody? No. He was talking about going home on terminal leave or some type of leave. He's almost done with his career. Okay, great. Do I want to court-martial that guy and waste the resources? No. But here's where I'm going to come full circle on this. If that dude's getting court-martialed, yet we're letting transvestites into the military, then the military itself has a problem. Okay? Because all he did was he raised his fingers, he lip-synced some song, there was some profanity in it. Was it stupid? Yes. Did I think he should have got court-martialed? No. But we're paying for sex changes in the military now. And you want to talk about recruiting, I'm 100% with Ben. Like, how could you have used that for recruiting? It went viral. It went completely viral. How can you use that as a recruiting tool with your absolutely atrocious recruiting numbers?
I would have kept him on duty. I've been like, guess what? This is great. You just won the recruiting roadshow trip. You're going to sing your friggin' song at all the high schools. You'd be like, no. I'd be like, no, motherfucker. Yes, you are. You're going to sing it. We're putting this shit on a fucking commercial, and we're going to use it. You're now a star for the USO. You're going overseas. You're going to be a comedian for the military. We'll re-up you for another year. You're going to be LDO. You know what I mean? And so, but I think you're right about that, too. I mean, court-martialing this guy over that is pretty stupid. But you know what it had to be? There has to be some history there. Someone had a grudge against him.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if you guys out there, if you don't think there are politics in the military and there are people that, you know, do some underhanded things to other people, you know, other service members, you'd be surprised. But it happens, grudges. Remember this, you know, absolute power corrupts absolutely, right? So anybody in power has to be very mindful of how they use their power. And sometimes people in power, they have a grudge against someone, and they're like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna get you back now for what you did a year or two ago or failed to do." Blah blah blah. And next thing you know, the guy's getting court-martialed over a TikTok video.
Yeah,
Jay, let me ask you a question, Jay. As a former senior enlisted dude, how did you feel about the video?
I thought it was inappropriate. Like, to me, if you're in uniform, there's just certain things that you shouldn't be doing, right? You have to represent your community in good light. And when I saw it initially, I didn't think that it accurately represented his community, right? Especially for an officer. And again, there's just certain things you expect out of your leaders, right? Like, I expect my first sergeant, my sergeant major to be that dude, right? If he wants to goof off on social media, take the uniform off. You know what I mean? Like, that's how I saw it. Represent that community. Like, you're always putting your best foot forward. Like, when I'm in uniform, I got my nice haircut, right? If I'm outside, I got my headgear on. Like, I always want to be that standard. because someone out there is looking at me always, and they're saying, I want to be like that guy. You know what I mean? If I'm on social media acting a fool and putting my worst foot forward, for all we know, the video went viral because people thought he was fucked up, right? Like it was clickbait. He had the lipstick on. He had.
Oh man, I didn't even see it. I didn't even see it.
Yeah.
It was a little bit out there.
He had the lipstick on. Yeah. He was like, I think the nails were done, and he was lip singing with. It looked like a freaking crush dresser almost. You know what I mean? So it went viral because people were like, "Oh, this dude's in a Navy like uniform and he looks all fucked up with makeup. Like, wacky. What's going on?" You know what I mean? So that's why it went viral, and the Navy's probably pissed because it made him look like crap. You know what I mean? So that's my stance on it. If you're gonna do it, make sure you represent. Yeah, make sure you represent your community always in good light. So now. We'll hit up the 9/11 story here in a little bit, but before we jump to that, I wanted to ask you guys a question about legacy. So, what type of legacy are you guys hoping to leave behind, and what are you doing right now to ensure that that legacy gets cemented in history? That's one that I've always been curious about, because we all know we're not going to be here for forever, but we want to leave something behind for our families, for those that are following us. Like, what do you want that legacy to be?
I'll jump in there really fast. I mean, I think first of all, through my children, right, through my kids, I get 2 sons. They're my priority over everything, and just making sure that I'm there for them to become the best they can be, and also trying not to make them just like me. But so that's my legacy right there. But then on top of that, like through what I do in my work to help as many people as I can as possible to level up and to live better lives, to achieve more, do more, feel better. Be good contributing citizens of wherever they are from, so that's really it. And I also started this charity too, to combat addiction and poverty, and just getting that really underway and starting to get that funded and everything. That's a big thing too, just because you see so many zombies out there today through this influx of drugs and the fentanyl problems and the opioid crisis. So that'll be another part of the legacy, and really. I think probably when I was younger, I would think more of legacy. I don't right now. I think of just living and doing right and helping as many people as I can as possible while I'm on this planet, and the gifts I've been given. And, that's my personal mission, is just to, be an inspiring leader and to change as many lives for the better that I can through my work, through my example, maybe through my stories of stupid things I've done too. And so they can learn through me of what not to do. But yeah, that's the big thing. And that, every time that I know a video I post or a talk I give, or we're on the podcast here or in person, I can help someone in some way, then to me, I've done some good in the world. And if I can just keep piling that up until the day I die, then that's it, man. And my kids are good and strong and living the best they can, then I'm good.
That's a win, Jake.
So my legacy is almost the exact same as Ben's, right? Like, I'm mentor 1,000 people across the country. I want them 1,000 people to have the best life and be as successful as possible. The number one goal on my goals list is to raise 3 savages in life. So as long as my 3 kids go out there and do prosperous things, whatever they do, be the best, right? Then I have achieved my goal of living a full and successful life. As far as, resources and money goes, I mean, that is what it is. Like, that goes with building successful kids. Like, my successful kids are financially responsible, and therefore the empire will grow. I will go back to this. I love this. I want compassionate, understanding kids. I'm not raising, savages that are going to be, I got to use all these bad words to say, but like, I'm not raising bad kids. I'm not. Like I'm raising good kids. And at the end of the day, as long as I achieve that, like Ben says, my kids are successful, then I've reached my milestone. And when it comes my time, I'm going up burning in the Viking boat, and then I'm gone.
Amen.
And I think it's very important that both of you guys, incorporate your kids and your legacies, because they are essentially your legacy to replace you. And I think that's something that gets missed a lot nowadays, especially this generation. So I'm glad you guys both brought up, hey, your kids are your legacy. Like, pour into them, even though we're, all of us were in the military, we still understand that we have to pour into our kids because they're replacing us.
So Jay,
So I got one more thing too.
go ahead, Ben, and I'll go after you.
And I was really thinking probably one of the most important points in the legacy is to have as many middle-aged women as possible comment on my Instagram. Mason.
So Jay, you asked.
I didn't even hear that. Jay's like, Jay didn't even hear that part.
Jay's over there. He's laughing. So Jay, you asked, what are we doing about it? Okay. Yeah. So I did some introspection this summer, and one of my sons had a rough time in math last year. And I'm going to tell you right now, like, schoolwork isn't at the top of my list. You know, I was a double athlete in college. It's just not super important to me. And my wife is valedictorian. It's really important to her. And I said, you know what? Like, if that's really my number one goal, then I've got to get off my butt and start working on this math stuff with my kids. So now, like, in the morning before he goes to school, I'm in math. Hasn't been polite. It hasn't been nice. I'm working on it. I'm trying to do better. Right? But I understand why his math isn't doing as well as it could do. And so we're taking corrective action. And I got to give up some time in the morning and I got to give up some time at night. And at the end of the day, it goes back to my number one goal. That dude going to be a savage. And if that means that I got to take 2 years to fix this math problem, I think we'll probably get it fixed in 6 months. But it's going to get fixed. I know that.
Can I say one more thing to you too? Like,
sure.
You know, as Jake's talking about teaching his son math. I've been there, dude. I've like borderline lost it trying to, like, you know, because I'm not that good at that either, right? And so here's me not that good at it, trying to teach my son who's not that good at it. And I'm like, go play football, do something, you know, that I can teach you. But I will tell you one thing for all the dads out there, right? And moms, whoever's out there, okay? Be mindful always, now that my kids are older, that the moments you're with them, some of these moments they'll never let go, they'll remember them, okay? I coached my son, or with my son around him in football for years. Okay, we're going to a football story. And at one point, he'll never let me live this down. I'm always cool, calm, and collected. He was a quarterback too, and he'd throw, you know, he'd do really well. Every now and then he could throw, you know, interception, pick six. I wouldn't care, no problem. We're in a playoff game once though. He just threw the wrong ball at the wrong time, and it was like, you know, I don't even think I'd intercepted, but I lost my cool. And he never lets me forget about it. He always tell me, even to this day, hey, remember that one time, Dad, you flipped out when I threw that one pass? I was like, that never happened. I'm trying to do gaslighting now, like it never happened. He's like, oh yes, it did. I remember you were all crazy. He's like, it was like Cobra Kai, you know, sweep the leg, Johnny, you got a problem. So just remember that. And I'll tell you what, remember these little things, man.
And I tell you what, and just at least from my perspective, because I have two, like both of my kids are way younger than you guys, so this is, you know, pretty interesting to me because my daughter's 3 and my son is 6, and we're heavily into jiu-jitsu because I want him to know how to fight. And for the last couple of tournaments, he's been losing, right? And I wanted to be one of those parents. I'm like, I don't want to live through my kids. Like, I'm gonna let him do what he needs to do, and then once he's ready and he's tired of losing, then he'll come to me and I can, like, pour into him, right? So he's been losing, and I'm like, every time he loses, he cries. I'm like, well, that's good because he clearly hates losing. So just recently we got a mat, and every morning, like, I'll PT him. I'm one of those dudes because I want them to grow up knowing fitness. So we'll go down the stairs, we'll do push-ups, we'll do sit-ups, you know. So he's gonna grow up in that life. And I'm like, all right, dude, are you tired of losing? He's like, yes. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go buy a mat, and every morning we're gonna roll. All right, I'm gonna teach you what I know, and I tell you what, every morning now, we've been doing it for 2 weeks. Every day now, it's like, hey, Dad, are we gonna, you know, do our exercises? Or are we gonna get on the mat? Like, some of these things you got to start ingraining in them very early on, because what you're doing is you're building that lifestyle, right? Yeah. They're gonna grow up. Hey, every morning when I wake up, I got to do PT. I gotta make sure I know how to fight. Like, everything that's important to you will become important to them.
And how,
you know
how
what I mean?
old
So
is
I'm
he?
glad you guys are sharing some of these because it's perfect.
How old is your
How's
son?
That been?
How old is your son?
My son is 6.
Hey, what's up, dude? He's sick. Oh, you know what he loves? He
up?
loves just being with you on the mats and rolling around. He's like, he doesn't care. He's like, I don't care about you. Just I want to roll with
what he likes.
Yeah, and that's so much fun.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
great. What's up, buddy? Hi. Do you know how cool your dad is? You know, I've known your dad for a long time, and he is an amazing person. He's one of my best friends, okay? And you have a dad who's like a superhero. You know that? Love your dad.
Can you
He's
can
like,
you tell
I
him
know.
the big three? Give him the big three.
Be a leader, be a superstar, be his friend.
All right.
Love it. I love it. Nice job. Nice job right there, Warrior. Awesome.
He looks just like you, Jake.
I know, man.
All right.
People in the audience
Now,
don't
you
realize
guys
like what a
remember-
badass Jake is, though. Like, you know, legitimately, I've known him for a long time, and like probably one of the most badass fighters I know, athletes, everything all around, and super smart. You always are downplaying it, but super smart dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
I
it.
Man, it's true. But I remember, so when I first got on YouTube, right? Because first thing I did, like I was the first on over at Swick, and I'm like, man, this sucks. And I'm like, man, I want to start doing this, you know, mentorship stuff. So I go on YouTube, and first thing you do, like any one of us, like we do some market research. I'm like, man, who's out here doing this shit? And I came across Jake. I'm like, who the fuck is this dude? You know, so I look him up, and his channel was you know pretty old because he was doing football stuff. And I'm like, okay, well, you know, he's doing it on the Navy SEAL side, and I kept looking, and I couldn't find anybody. I'm like, man. So I went back and I watched all of Jake's videos. I was like, okay, well, he's currently doing it as a SEAL, so let me learn everything that I can from him. So for about a year and a half, I would just watch Jake's videos, and finally, I was like, okay, so I'm starting to gain some momentum to where if I reach out to him, he would just ignore me, right? So finally, I sent him a message through Instagram. I was like, hey, you know, like I've been following your channel, like you want to do a collaboration? And then he was like, yep, let's do it. And then he came down. So I was like, oh shit. So he came down to North Carolina and we did that podcast. And since then, you know, it's been freaking, you know, like you've always looked out, you've always helped, and you helped put this together. Cause I was like, hey, Jake, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, and then you helped me find the right people, right? Whether it was fucking Aaron was almost Jason Sweets. You know?
Yeah. He was almost Jason. Yeah.
Yeah, and then you connect all the pieces, so everything worked out, Jake. So I appreciate you for all of that.
Absolutely, Jay.
And
man.
we'll roll right into. Go ahead, Jake.
No, it's exactly what me and Ben said, right? Like my job ain't to win no more. I'm 52. My job ain't to win no more. My job is to help others win, and I win through. So like I just got a phone call just last week, man. I got two F-35 pilots right now. And they call me, they're like, we made it, we're flying F-35s. I'm like, bro, I'm on fire, right? I just got a call from a Harvard kid yesterday, right? He's in Harvard Medical School. He's like, oh my God, Jake, like I got selected for this. Now, here's the big one I'm going to tell you. This is a big one, all right? So we had the number 3 graduate in OCS, Army OCS, calls me the other day, and he's on fire. I said, what are you doing? I'm going to Sandhurst. I'm going to be in the British Army. They're like sending me over there for a year and a half to train with them. I said, bro, how prestigious is that award? There's only one a year, and I got it, bro. Like, dog, we crushing it, bro. Like we winning so big. My girl in Marine Corps TBS calls me one night. You ain't gonna believe this, Jay. I'm like, what's up? She's like, I got one of the 2 meritorious aviation contracts in the Marine Corps this year. I'm going to fly planes. Right? Like that's the win right there. That's the win. So like when you call me, when you're like, hey man, I need some help on this podcast, I'm like, what do you need? You know, same thing that Jamerson did, right? Like that, bro, my channel is tripled in 1 week.
On fire. Yeah.
1 week. Right? And so like at this point, it's not about me winning. It's about Xavier winning, right? Like, you know, he gonna give you the big 3. Like every morning we say the big 3. Every morning we're gonna say, where are you going to college? I'm going to Harvard, Yale, Stanford, West Point. Right? They're gonna rip off what their direction is. And, you know, I'm a first-time dad, but I know this. If I put my kids up against your kids, not yours, Jay, but just in life, I think my kids are gonna win. And that's what I'm trying to do, right?
Yeah, and I think everybody should have that same mindset. Like, make your kids better than where you were and set them up for success.
Oh, Jay, my 12-year-old right now writes 100 times better than me. My 3rd grader writes better than me. Okay, but the thing I'm gonna say that I love, all 3 of them are not absolute terrorists, and they don't implode in social situations. Okay, the violence is not their first recourse. It's the second, but it's not first. Okay, and I'm telling you, like like that point right there, Jay, like I already feel like I won the lottery, right? Like I got the best wife in the world and she's raising great kids, but I haven't managed to absolutely blow them up and destroy them, which every day, like we had a long talk, we have something going on in the house. Wife and I had a hour-long talk about what's the direction with this kid. And I was like, yeah. And then I said today, I did what Ben said, right? I'm going to have tactical patience. And I said, you know what? We're not going to address this issue today, maybe tomorrow, but I'll know when it's time to address the issue, but I'm not going to jump into something and mess it up.
You know, and I'll say something too.
Real quick before you go, Ben.
Yeah.
Real quick before you go, Ben, I got to say this because I got some smack. I love my wife. I love you. Because she said, Jake talks about his wife all the time, and I never mention her. Love you, Jolene. You're doing a great job with our kids. Ben, please.
She's off camera right there. She's off camera.
Hey, Jay, don't let her watch the podcast because Ben, she'll be like this.
Get out of here, man. See, you guys see the hard time I get? I got Mason coming after me. Mason, I love you, man. Thank you. But, you know, it's like, give me a break. I am who I am. God made me who I am. What am I supposed to do? All right, check it out. So I'll say this, though, with, parents out there, and you guys can understand this, but don't worry. Like, let your kids be the best they can be, all that stuff like that. And sometimes life isn't going to be like this, right? Sometimes it's going to be like this, and it's going to be like this. It's going to be, going all over the place. Stick with them, though. The biggest thing you need to do is to let them know you'll always have their back. Sometimes having their back means you whoop their dumb ass, okay? Literally, figuratively. Sometimes you got to let them fall and fail. You still are there, okay, with the quick reaction force. The QRF is burning. The birds are up here. You're like, okay, it's all right. You fell down. That's all right. I see you. You're in a bad way right now. Just know the QRF, the birds are circling, right? We're up here. I can do a drop anytime, and I can get you out of the situation. But I want to see you get back up first. So what I'm saying is let them know that you're always going to have their back no matter what, okay? And sometimes that does mean tough love. And sometimes it means, actively, supporting them and, and being kind and all those things too. But you're not always going to have consistent wins, okay? I heard a story from a guy who ended up, a superstar quarterback in high school, 5A school in Texas, Division 1A, starting QB as a sophomore. Is running it up against Texas, all these teams like that. Jake, you might be familiar with him. Maybe Damon West, maybe. Mm-hmm. End up getting a bad shoulder injury. Okay, yeah. Pretty famously talks about this shoulder injury. Football's gone. We talked about identity before. You have an identity loss. Something happens, right? He couldn't play football anymore his whole life. He was a star athlete his whole life. Okay, goes into hard times. Tries to go on Wall Street, start making money. But in order to get the edge, he started doing drugs, got into meth. Next thing you know, he's in jail. Here's this guy, a superstar his whole life. Now he's starting at beyond zero, okay? And I'm saying that, so no matter what point of life they're in, the thing is that parenting, like it's a lifelong journey, right? Am I any superstar expert? No, I do the best I can, right? And again, I'm a first-time parent as well, but it's a lifelong mission. It never stops. And so I think part of it is letting them know, hey, I got your back and I support you the best I can. And that may just be kind words and a shoulder to cry on and, ear to listen to what you have to say and offering your best advice. And that's why it's so important, I think, to be a lifelong learner, too. For me, I'm always trying to upgrade and learn, because I'm not perfect. And that way, at least that's part of that legacy I can pass to my kids. And at least I can say, okay, I may not have done these things that you want to do, right? Maybe I'm not, all this and that and have achieved all the success that you're dreaming of. But you know what? I've read books on people that have, and I can coach you and say, hey, here's what I've seen that they did. I even do that with clients too. Maybe someone has a manufacturing firm. Maybe they're starting a tech fund. Okay, I've got all these people that I work with. Someone may have a big PR firm, all these different things. Okay, someone maybe a celebrity. Okay, a celebrity client that's in the entertainment industry. I may not have been in all those things, but what I do is I pride myself on deep dive studying all these things so that I take what I know and what I've done, and then I can bolt that on and say, look, here are the case studies. Here's what I think will work. It's like planning a military mission. I think this will help you. What do you think? They're like, yeah, I'm going to use X, Y, and Z. I'm going to take that. I'm going to run with it. And they go and kick ass. So I think it's the same thing with kids too. And just know that they're not always going to be a mega success. Sometimes stuff's going to happen. But you want to teach them how to be resilient and get back up again, because life is long and you want to stay in the game, stay in the fight for the long-term goals, long-term fight. Anyway, that's my little spiel.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate you guys sharing this. Now, I know I've heard your version of this, Jake, but Ben, I'm curious. Do you remember where you were when 9/11 happened? Because that'll roll right into this next story that
Yeah.
we'll roll right into.
Yeah, I do. I was coming back from a run. I was in Pacific Grove, California. I was actually at the Naval Postgraduate School. I was going to language school, actually. I was getting language school, getting ready to go out to Southeast Asia, and into the Philippines and a bunch of other places. So I was in language school coming back from a morning run, and I ran in the house. We lived like, right in the ocean there, basically. And I came in, and my wife at the time was watching the TV. I was like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Look at this." And live, it showed one of the Twin Towers just burning. And as I'm watching, the second plane hit, and I instantly says it's a terrorist attack. It's 100% terrorist attack, and then everything just started rolling from there, as we all know. But yeah, I remember that really well. I actually just found a newspaper at my old house with the newspaper front page, that I'd kept of, America at war, America attacked, all this stuff like that.
Yeah, this next story is interesting because Secretary Austin recently revoked a plea deal that was submitted to let these individuals essentially remove them from the death penalty. He revoked that deal because he wants America to hold those individuals accountable for what they did on that day. A lot of people are giving him a lot of smack because he did it. What are you guys' thoughts as far as how this should be taken care of as far as these individuals?
So let me start off. I want to say this, Jay, because I bit my tongue when Ben was talking about command guidance on the general question, right? I bit my tongue because I knew we were going to hit this. I think this is one of those situations where a guy with a massive amount of wisdom made a play that I absolutely love, and he did it for all the right reasons, right? Like, he did it for all the right reasons. And to Ben's point, he has the political capital to be able to pull that chain and pull that plea deal back. So I just wanted to say that because I've been holding on to that since Ben said that, basically laid it out for us with the general question. 100%. I think I'm not necessarily for or against. Okay, I think we've exacted our revenge at some point for 9/11. But the other thing I know I don't want to do is send the mastermind of the 9/11 attack back into the forest so he can come up with the 6/22. The next date that he they let me back in the game. Watch this one.
I mean, that's what I'll say. I'm just gonna say it. We're all family here on the YouTube channel. Fuck those motherfuckers, man. No way. No fucking way, dude. We caught them just because time has happened, and we got your leader. We got Osama bin Laden. If at this point they still don't know if the person's culpable, that's different. But I'm sorry, man. That's nope. It's the way it is. You're lucky. Honestly, you're lucky that me and my Marines didn't catch you. So that's it.
Yeah, it's just wild that they even considered it. And I'm glad, to Jake's point, that somebody up there, and whatever, you can like the man, you could dislike him. At the end of the day, I'm glad somebody up there was like, no, this is not happening. And for whatever reason, he's still getting like a lot of political pressure to let the deal go through. And I'm like, who is politically pressuring this dude? Because
AOC.
as a military man.
AOC and the crew.
I mean,
squad.
You ask anybody from New York City, and I'm in New York City quite a bit. I go up there, and I do keynote speeches, inspirational speaking, but I talk with a lot of, people that are in the defense security industry, but there are, a lot of conservative business leaders up there too. People who lived in New York City. This shaped their outlook. This shaped who these people are. They may have had a different outlook in life, but none of those people that I know that it would even surprise you that they have this outlook, but they don't have any like, oh, okay, well, time has passed. Are you kidding me? What happened in New York City that day? These people are en masse traumatized, and like honestly, when you really get to talk to someone who's from New York City, was there in 9/11, it is a serious event. Like, I've been there at the 9/11 memorial. I spoke at the anti-terrorism symposium, about 500 people in the audience, and I'm going to tell you what, man, like that's another level. Like talk about dudes that are running out of the building, saving people, lost friends when the towers collapsed. You know, I mean, that's a whole nother ball game up there. So asking any of them, nobody's going to say, oh, you know, it's been some time. Sure. What did we do with the World War II criminals? Are you kidding me? We
Shot them.
Yeah, exactly.
We hunted those
Shot
dudes.
'em.
They're 90, 100%, man.
Yeah. Yeah. And to your point, Ben, I remember like that incident is the entire reason why I'm here.
Yeah.
I was in high school, downtown Brooklyn, right there across the bridge when the
Good Lord.
towers hit. And I remember, like, because shit, New York City, there's always construction going on, right? So you hear it, and you're like you don't even think anything about it. You just go about your business because it's like, oh, it's a jackhammer or whatever. And I remember one of my classmates, you know, he was late to class. He ran in. He was like, hey, did you guys hear what happened? We're like, no, like, what's going on? And that's when he told us that, you know, planes had hit the towers. So they let us out of school, and I'm standing there, and George Westinghouse is literally right across, like, it's like right at the mouth of the bridge.
No, you're like right there. Yeah, you're
like,
right there.
Yeah, literally, right? Yeah, like I can see the smoke from Lower Manhattan from my high school.
Yeah.
So we walk outside, and I'm standing there, and there comes all the people walking across the bridge.
Dude,
White,
across the Brooklyn
dusty.
Bridge.
Yeah, and because they're walking home, because all the public transportation was shut down. So everybody's walking home, and they're dusty, and they're making their way. And, you know, like, I went to school in downtown Brooklyn, but I lived in Canarsie. So I had to walk home like 12 hours, you know, like me and some of my buddies and some of those people, just silent. And I'm walking home, you know, once I got home, I let my mom know that I was all right. But to this day, like, I'll go to New York City and I go to the memorial, and, you know, I was recently down there, to do some work with the Insider, and it was like flashbacks, and it was like, holy shit. Like,
first time I went there, I lost it, man. First time I went there, I lost it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah.
Yeah,
But I want to say though, I didn't know that though, Jay. But I want to say that, dude. I mean, some of the stuff that you talked about, and now knowing this too, brother, you've seen and been through a lot. You know, I hope you are taking care of that. You know what I'm saying? So.
Oh yeah, absolutely, yeah. The day before, I skipped school and I went to Century 21, which was like literally across the street from the World Trade Center. So I was joking, like, man, had that been a day before, who knows where I would have been? You know what I mean? So I say all this to say, yeah, if they let them out, I'm hunting them down.
Amen.
So
I had spent the whole summer.
They're not gonna do that. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Jake.
Go ahead, Jake.
I had spent the whole summer before trying to stump on Wall Street to get a job because I was going into business school. And like the Goldman Sachs office is across the street from the World Trade Centers. I was there like 4 times interviewing, you know? So, you know, and like I told, like Ben said, man, I went there last summer. We went to New York, and I don't like, so I tell everybody I don't like New York City because when I was 10, I watched my grandfather get mugged. Not mugged, pickpocketed right in front of me. And my mom jumped on one of the pickpockets, right? And it was kind of traumatizing to me. But I have a very negative connotation of New York City. I don't like it. But it was the first time we went back, and so we had the kids, and we hit everything. You know, Ellis Island, we hit everything. And it was phenomenal. But, yeah, the World Trade Center, you know, the one memorial, all of that stuff was crushing. Like, I shed tears. You know, we've all lost a lot of people since that towers came down, and it was... You know, I shed some tears because I sat on the sidelines, right? Like, I got my own demons I'm dealing with. I didn't get back in the fight. So, yeah, man.
Yeah. And I tell you this, Jake, because, like, a lot of folks will, you know, not necessarily, you know, do or say what you're going through, but I always look at it as everything happens for a reason, right? Like had 9/11 never happened, I would never be here. You know what I mean? Like, if you had stayed in the military after 9/11, you probably would have never been here. You know what I mean? So everything happens for a reason, and the stars align exactly like how they were supposed to align. And, you know, all we can do is, you know, play the hand that we're dealt and just keep it pushing. So
very true.
Driving like it's stolen, son.
But
that's it.
With that said, Ben, what you got for me? I just got the text. Stranger Things 5. It's happening. I'm going to be going down to fucking Atlanta. to play a soldier. I don't even know what that
Congrats,
means.
man.
Let's go! That's so
I'm
awesome.
gonna go down there and fucking do some acting.
Dog,
I've been taking
listen.
acting lesson, but yeah.
Jay, are you gonna speak?
I don't know if there's any monologue involved.
Okay,
I'm texting the guy now, but I would think there is, yeah.
When you get on set and they fall in love with you, you need to get 2 sentences in so you can get your SAG card. Because your SAG card will open up a ton of doors for you.
Yep.
So even if you don't, like, I don't care if you got to say take the hill, whatever it is, like, just keep that in the back of your head, because the SAG card, once you get the SAG card, all bets are off. Now it opens a lot of doors for you.
Yeah. Because the last one I did, I shot some blanks, so that technically can be used for a SAG card. But if I'm able to get a monologue in on, because I'm gonna be shooting for fucking 3 days, so they gotta let me say something for those 3 days.
Yeah,
You know
I don't know. The only
even if I gotta sneak it in there.
The only thing I would say is and I don't know what the rules are right now. I've been kind of like a little bit out of it, but if you want to get into like bigger roles too, sometimes going the indie route into some of the independent films, things like that. If you're SAG-AFTRA, you can't really go into those, and so I don't know today if you can just kind of like turn it off or turn it on. My understanding was before you couldn't. So I think just to give a thought to that as well too, like, how much do you want to do? Do you want to try to go in the film festival route and get like some big ass roles in the film festival route and some movies where you're really deep diving the acting? Because then that'll stay open to you. And I think if you go into SAG, and anybody in the audience who knows this better, tell me, or Jake, if you know, I know you're still in the game a lot, but you may not be able to compete for those big indie film roles, which could turn into huge things. So just keep that in mind too, because you'd be SAG eligible and turn it on whenever you want to. But I think once you dive into that, then you're now, you're competing with a lot of really seasoned people who have a big connections, a lot of big network. So, whether you decide to get the card right away or not, that's up to you.
And we know,
I
just
heard
so
there's a big ass fee for it too.
It's not that big. It's like a couple $1,000, Jay. It ain't that big a deal.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to tell y'all, I'm sitting on a golden egg, and I'm just waiting for it to hatch, because then all 4 of us are going to party.
Woo!
God help us all.
Oh yeah.
Yo.
And all of you can watch everything. Watch the evolution.
Yeah. I tell you what, Ben, I did watch We Were Soldiers. I
cool.
don't know where to find you on there.
I'm with Sam Elliott.
I was looking for you.
Yeah, Sam Elliott and I are doing I was like, honestly, it's so funny. You know how it is. Like, it's like we shot the scene from like 6 a.m. till like 8 p.m. at night. And it's literally like 10 seconds, 15 seconds. But I'm the demolition man with him. And like, I blow the trees up and all this stuff. And so, I have a couple like feature shots and all that with him. That was in a bunch of other scenes too. But that one, like, I'm in all the military gear and everything like that. But I basically spent the whole day with Sam Elliott and with Mel Gibson. So it was really cool. Spent about 2 weeks on set for that. Met a lot of cool people. But definitely a good experience there. So vote, if you're looking at We Were Soldiers, enjoy seeing the Demolition Man. That's me. Some Oscar-worthy stuff right there. A lot of fun, though, to do it.
Oh, man. Oh, yeah.
And Sam Elliott was trying, to your point,
you guys, man.
Sam Elliott was trying to give me his lines, too. And Randall Wallace, director's like, Sam, I don't know if I can. He's like, no, Ben should be saying this. I was like, yes, say it.
Yeah, he saw the glory before the glory became the glory.
That's it.
He said, this dude's a movie star right here. Yes, sir. Yes,
That's
sir.
It, baby.
Is his voice as deep as it sounds on television?
Yes. Yeah, 100%.
Oh, man. That dude's
super cool dude.
He's got that
really down to earth, nice guy.
Most of these guys are. Except Tommy Lee Jones. Like, I heard he's a fucking, he was a prick.
Oh,
now, let me say this. There are a number of them that are eccentric and out there in left field, outer space.
Yeah,
Yep.
Mel Gibson was really cool, too. Hung out with him. He's like, I just treated him like any other guy. We just sat there. Honestly, how I treated it was like in the military. You learn this in the military, too. I'm like, if he was a full bird colonel or a general, and I was, way junior, I'm going to treat him like that, without stirring him to death. But he just telling me a bunch of jokes and stuff. We're just hanging out. And, I just treat him with courtesy and respect like you do anybody else. And he was super cool, too. Really nice guy.
Yeah, see, the thing with me is I've never seen a fucking episode of Stranger Things. So now I'm like, do I need to go binge watch all 4 seasons? I'm like, I don't know what the fuck the show's about. You know what I mean? So
they'll be like,
I might
remember
have to
this
watch
one?
a couple episodes here and there.
That's so funny.
That's awesome, dog. We're gonna be on here I'm gonna do reaction video to Jay's acting. I'm gonna be like, man, and hey Benny, you better believe I'm fixing to go pull that up. That's something I didn't know. I'm about to pull that up. I'm gonna do a reaction video on Ben Pappas when we were soldiers.
You're gonna be very impressed. And if we want to pump that as much as possible so I can get some new roles. Is about to jump back in a little bit, so that'll be fun.
Go. Let's go.
That's
Let's
awesome,
go.
man. That's awesome.
Let's go.
And to me, it just speaks to, and I want the audience to understand, like, hey, don't ever sell yourself short. Like, keep pushing and keep establishing what you want your legacy to be, right? Because for me, it's like, man, like this acting stuff, like I never fucking thought about it, but then I went down just to be an extra on the set, and I'm like, oh, this is like being an NTC and JRTC, you know, playing soldier, running around with a gun, and I'm like, man, this is actually fun. I'm like, people get paid millions for this. I'm like, fuck it, man, like, why not? So my acting coach, she was actually the one that sent me the thing, and I applied for it, and now it's, hopefully it turns into more opportunities, and then, like I said, if I'm going, everybody's coming. So,
hey man, that sounds great.
Appreciate you.
You know, I'll say one thing to the audience too. You know, guys, just remember that a lot of times we don't do things that we really want to do because of fear, and the fear is usually not like, you know, a physical fear. It's fear of criticism, fear of judgment, you know, fear of people saying things about you, and if they do that, you feel like you're not good enough. It's the fear of not being good enough. And if you're not good enough, then you're afraid you're not going to belong, you're not going to have community, and you're not going to be loved, right? You're not going to have love. So it's all these fears of shame and criticism that if you got something you really want to do that secretly inside, you're like, hey, I think I could do that, and I want to do that, but you don't because of the people around you, what you think they might say. You know, what I would say to you is keep fear as your friend and step into that fear, okay? Because every time you step into the fear is like this indicator, like it's like a little alarm bell telling you it's time to grow. Whenever you're feeling that fear, it's time to grow. So you got to step into it. So if you're feeling that fear, that's time. Maybe you actually have to do it and try it. And half the time, not more than half the time, 90% of the time, no one's thinking of you anyway. They're thinking of themselves, okay? They're the star in their own movie. So go for yours, do the things you want to do. And if you fail, who cares? Get back up again and try it again, you know? It's okay. There's a first time for everything. And, you know, if you want to do something, it's worth doing badly at first before you get good at it. So I'd say go for it. Go for yours.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Ben. Awesome words. But 3 hours in, fellas, I'm going to go get some dinner.
Hey, Ben, I'm gonna call you right now. I need to call you. I got something big I need to talk to you about.
All right, let's do it. Usually these are some great conversations, everybody. I wish you could do it, but no.
All right, y'all.
All right,
Take care. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, take care. Bye.